Chapter 560. Let's try soul attacks. If Luli used his strength, these people would be smashed to death right away. There would be no effect. Luli walked to the second person. That person was terrified. He dropped to his knees, kowtowed, and said, "Emperor, please spare my life. I will never do it again." Whoosh, Luli lifted the iron rod gently and tapped on that person's head like a teacher punishing a student. He didn't use any strength, but the soul attack spread like waves, reaching the outside of the warrior's soul pond. Then, it spread inside the warrior's soul pond. Eventually, the warrior's soul was shattered. Not bad. Luli could feel clearly that the soul attack didn't stop and it went into the warrior's soul pond directly. Even if the warrior had some kind of protection treasure outside his soul, the soul attack could still get in easily. Boom! The death row prisoner fell to the ground with a loud thud, scaring the rest of the people. Yicha's eyes were filled with astonishment. Luli had just tapped on the head without using any strength, and the death row inmate was dead. What kind of skill was that? Or was the death row inmate scared to death? Rustle, 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 Luli walked to the third death row inmate. He waved the iron rod up and down, and then tapped on the head of the third death row inmate. That death row inmate died immediately. This time, Luli stopped and thought for a while before he walked to the fourth death row inmate. He tapped on the head again, and the same death row inmate died. Hiss, hiss, the remaining 11 death row inmate were pale. They were gasping, and their backs were soaked in sweat. When they were captured, they all thought they could die at any time. Now that they were about to die, they were frightened by such a strange way of death. They felt a chill from the depth of their souls. Nobody was pleading for mercy. Luli didn't change his expression. It was pointless to say more. They had all heard of this emperor, Luli. He was cold-blooded, and too many had died in his hands. Bang! With another gentle knock, another person died. Luli thought about it and put away the iron rod. He picked up a piece of bamboo from the ground and walked towards the next person. Bang! Luli tapped on a death row inmate's forehead with the bamboo, like a child playing. That person fell to the ground at once and breathed no more. How is that possible? The eyes of the remaining people were wide open, as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Yicha sensed with psychic power and understood that Luli was attacking with his soul. The remaining people hadn't reached the imperishable realm and couldn't release their divine consciousness, so they looked especially frightening. Boom! When Luli walked towards one of them, that person rolled his eyes and fell to the ground. He had passed out. Oomph! Luli pointed at the condemned prisoner's soul again with the bamboo stick in his hand. This time, he stopped and murmured, "I made a mistake. I should have been able to release less power and weaken my soul attack. This way, he won't die instantly, and the two attacks can be used together." Luli came back to his senses. His physical strength and soul energy were not strong enough, so he could not kill the condemned prisoners at once. In this way, he could have more time to experiment. He thought it through, but the rest of the prisoners were miserable. Boom! Luli smashed at the head of a death row inmate with some strength. 2 shockwaves were transmitted into the death row inmate's soul pond. The shockwaves of strength attacked the soul of the death row inmate first, almost cracking his soul pond. Then the soul attack spread out, and the soul of the death row inmate collapsed at once. My physical strength and soul attack are stronger. Luli walked to the next death row inmate. This time, he controlled his strength and soul energy. That death row inmate didn't die, but he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. The pain of having his soul injured was indescribable and unbearable. The death row inmate rolled around on the ground, howling in pain. His face was twisted and his eyeballs were about to pop out. It was a horrifying sight. "Emperor, give us a quick death." "Luli, if you are a man, then don't torture us. Just kill us." "Luli, you bastard, you animal, bastard, kill me if you have the balls." The rest of the death row inmate were scared out of their wits. They kept begging for mercy. Some of them were insulting Luli, trying to provoke him into killing them. Luli didn't listen to them. His mind was blank. He was focused on the combination of physical strength and soul attack. When the two attacks were well coordinated, it would be horrifying. It was possible that he could kill human sovereign realm warriors with a sneak attack. Luli swung the bamboo, experimenting, deducing, and studying. He tried to make the two attacks work together perfectly. Otherwise, the soul-shattering skill could not be considered a success. Soon, miserable cries came from the mountains. Even Yi Cha could not bear it anymore. He looked at Lu Li with awe and veneration. Half an hour later, Lu Li stopped. He realized there were no more heads to attack. He looked around in a daze. When he saw Yi Cha, he walked toward him with the bamboo. "Saint Lord, it is me. I am Yi Cha." Yi Cha trembled in fear. He almost wet his pants and shouted. Lu Li came back to his senses. He looked around. All the death row inmates were dead, except for Yi Cha. Yi Cha was terrified. He almost wanted to run away. Lu Li burst into laughter. He threw away the bamboo and said, "Send a message back and ask Madame Yin for more death row inmates. Well, ask God of Meng and Chi Ke if they have captured any survivors. Bring me more. I need to cultivate for a while." Okay. Yi Cha flew away at once, as if he had been granted amnesty. He wished he could stay as far away from Lu Li as possible. Lu Li pouted and went back to the snow mountain of dragons. Little White was still using thunderbolts to refine its body. Every time for more than a dozen breaths, it would let out a thunderbolt. It curled up on the ground. It seemed to be asleep, not moving at all. Lu Li sensed something was wrong with Little White. He left it alone and went to check on by Qiu Shue. Lu Li sat for half a day, and Third Patriarch still hadn't come back. He decided to cultivate to build a fate wheel. He had built 4 fate wheels and was familiar with it. It was a piece of cake for him, and he had top-level elixirs. He didn't have to worry. When Yi Cha came back with a message, Lu Li asked him to stay outside, and nobody was allowed to disturb him. Lu Li went into his room to build a fate wheel. This time it was easy. 5 days later, Lu Li had another layer on his fate wheel, making it a 5-layered one. His life was extended as well. Building 5 fate wheels didn't mean he was at the middle stage of the Eternal Realm. To reach the middle stage of the Eternal Realm, he needed 6 fate wheels. Building 9 fate wheels was the later stage of the Eternal Realm. When the 9 fate wheels were integrated and the bead of life was formed, one could reach the Noble Lord Realm. Lu Li was at the middle stage of the Eternal Realm. He needed 1 more fate wheel before he could step into the real middle stage of the Eternal Realm. After he finished, he cultivated for another 2 or 3 days to stabilize his realm. Then he walked out in a hurry. Third Patriarch. When he opened the door and saw a familiar man, he was excited. Third Patriarch had finally come back from the Clouds Plains. "How is it?" Lu Li dragged Third Patriarch into the castle and asked. Third Patriarch was excited. He nodded and said, "I am 70% sure that I have found Lady Ling." Chapter 561. 70%. Lu Li shuddered at once. Third Patriarch was an honest and low-key person, a conservative person. Since he said that there was a 70% chance, then it was practically a done deal. He grabbed the third elder's shoulder and asked, "Where? Drifting Cloud Hall?" "Yes." The third elder nodded heavily. 1.5 years ago, a saintess suddenly appeared in the Drifting Cloud Hall. She is very mysterious. She is not a member of the 2 families of the Drifting Cloud Hall. It is said that she is the disciple of the great elder who cultivates the holy light Upanishad. Lu Li's eyes were as bright as the sun. He asked seriously, "That great patriarch really cultivated the holy light, profound meaning?" "It's been confirmed." The third elder nodded again and said, "I went to the Cloud Prefecture and confirmed with many people that I have indeed cultivated the holy light profound. In the past, this Grand Supreme Elder kept a low profile. This time, he fought against a few major powers and made many moves. News of this has spread throughout the Cloud region." Huff, huff, Lu Li exhaled. He was almost certain that Lu Ling was at the Drifting Cloud Hall. He paused for a moment before asking nervously, "Did you bribe the people of Drifting Cloud Hall? Did you see my sister? Didn't I give you a portrait? Didn't you get someone to identify it?" "I captured 3 scouts from Drifting Cloud Hall." The third elder sighed slightly and said, "Unfortunately, That saintess is very low-key. She always wears a mask when she shows herself to others. Ordinary drifting Cloud Hall disciples have never seen her before. Right now, the flames of war are raging in the Cloudwater region. There are experts everywhere. I don't dare to enter the Cloudwater region rashly. I haven't seen the Holy Maiden yet. Yes, you did the right thing. There was a war going on over there. After all, Third Patriarch was from the Cyan Phoenix race. It would be troublesome if he was targeted and captured by the other forces. Luli thought about it and said, "Tell me everything you know. Leave nothing out. Also, tell me about the Clouds Plains." Luli was almost certain that Lu Ling was at the Clouds Plains. He needed to calm down, analyze the situation, and make long-term plans. After all, Lu Ling could be the saintess of the Drifting Cloud Hall at the moment. The Drifting Cloud Hall was at war with several other forces, including human sovereign realm warriors. After thinking for a while, the third elder recounted everything he had seen and heard in the Cloud Prefecture. He spoke in great detail for almost an hour. Luli didn't say anything. He listened for an hour and then fell into deep thoughts. From the third elder's words, he obtained a lot of information and gained some understanding of the situation in the Cloud State. The most powerful force in the Cloud State was the Sun Palace, which occupied the most fertile land in the north of the Cloud State. The Drifting Cloud Hall was second, occupying a large territory in the southeast. Behind them were the Silver Wolf Mountain, the Black Moon Palace, the Lotus Cult, and other forces. There were more human sovereign realm warriors in the Clouds Plains than Luli expected. It was said that the Palace of Sun had 3 human sovereign realm warriors. The Drifting Cloud Hall had 2 human sovereigns, and the Silver Wolf Mountain, Black Moon Palace, and Lotus Cult each had 1 human sovereign realm expert. The forces further down the list had no human sovereign realm experts. At the moment, the Drifting Cloud Hall was at war with the Silver Wolf Mountain, the Black Moon Palace, and the Lotus Cult in the Drifting Cloud Hall's territory. The Sun Palace did nothing about this matter, allowing the 4 forces to wage war. Right now, the Drifting Cloud Hall was in a disadvantageous position, retreating step by step. The 3 forces had already taken over half of their territory. So many Renwangs. Luli was troubled. If there were no human sovereign realm warriors, he could go and save Lu Ling by himself. But now, there were so many human sovereign realm warriors. Luli was afraid that all of them would be wiped out. He had a human sovereign realm warrior, God of Meng. However, God of Meng's body shape was too unique. He could be recognized as a member of the Titan race or a member of the Mammoth race. No matter which race he was from, he would attract the attention of the Sun Palace, which would be reported to the major families of the Central Plains. In the end, God of Meng would not be able to escape death. If he didn't bring anyone with him, he would go alone? Lu Ling must be at the Drifting Cloud City. There must be human sovereign realm warriors in the city. Luli could be killed if he went alone. Grandmaster said that he would protect Luli for 10 years. But people at the Clouds Plains might not have heard of him. He would be slapped to death if he dared to make trouble at the Drifting Cloud Hall. Yu Huashen and Zi Huanxiao, you 2 good-for-nothings. Luli swore to himself. If one of them could reach the human sovereign realm, then he would have a better chance. After all, they were not going to start a war, but to save Lu Ling. That being said, if Zi Huanxiao and Yu Huashen had reached the human sovereign realm, they would have started a fight already. Human sovereign realm warriors would not be willing to be inferior to him. Third Patriarch. After some thoughts, Luli shouted, "Send a message to God of Meng. Also, send a message to Madame Yan. Ask if Zi Huanxiao and Yu Huashen have finished their cultivation. Did they make a breakthrough? Last time when Luli went out, Yu Huashen and Zi Huanxiao were both cultivating. They might be trying to reach the human sovereign realm. If one of them made the breakthrough, Luli could give up the throne as long as they could save Lu Ling." Third Patriarch nodded and left. Luli paced up and down in the castle by himself. He was anxious and worried about his gains and losses. For Luli, Lu Ling was more like a mother than a sister. She was one of the most important people in his life. Lu Ling had suffered so much. Now that he had found her, he would try to save her even if he was in hell. An hour later, God of Ming teleported back. He stood outside the castle like a tower. Luli used psychic power to check the surroundings. Making sure that nobody was around, he said, God of Ming, I need to go to the Clouds Plains to save someone. There are human sovereign realm warriors there. They might start a war. Can you help me? Clouds Plains? God of Ming frowned and began to think. Luli felt bitter since God of Ming didn't say anything. He was forcing God of Ming into a corner. After all, once God of Ming's identity was exposed, he would die for sure. If you can't, then never mind. After a while, Luli sighed in disappointment since God of Ming still didn't say anything. God of Ming looked up at Luli and said, if it is just to save someone, it won't be a big problem. But after that, my identity will be exposed. When we go back to the deserted world, families of the Central Plains will send people over soon. What should we do then? Close all the passageways to the deserted world? We will never be able to get the mystical materials we need for cultivation in the future. Luli was surprised. God of Ming made it sound so easy, as if saving someone was a piece of cake, and he was thinking about what would happen after the rescue. God of Ming looked at Luli in confusion. Suddenly, his body began to glow and his bones cracked. Then, to Luli's astonishment, he shrank to the size of a human being. Even the horn on his head shrank in. Apart from his strange skin, he looked no different from a human being. What? Luli was dumbfounded. God of Ming, who was more than 100 feet tall, had shrunk to 8 feet tall, which was unbelievable. In the ancient times, thousands of races vied for supremacy. Wars and disputes were constant. For the continuation and survival of their races, all races tried their best to understand the laws of heaven and earth and created many secret skills. My skills were not advanced in the ancient times. God of Ming's body glowed as he grew taller and bigger. He explained, I can use secret skills to change my shape. I also have a profound skill to hide my realm. As long as I don't do anything, not even human sovereign realm warriors can tell. Therefore, it shouldn't be too difficult to save one person. Seeing that Luli was excited and his eyes were glowing, God of Ming poured cold water on him and said, don't get too excited. It will be fine if I don't do anything. But once I do, I must change back to my original form. That will expose me. If we are lucky, we can come back. But after that, powerful warriors of the Central Plains will come to the northern desert soon. It's okay. Chapter 562. The barefooted were not afraid of those with shoes. Grand Master's order must have been sent to all the forces of the Central Plains. The 4 forces in particular must have received the warning. Anyone who dared to kill Luli in the next 10 years would be challenging the dignity of the Grand Master. The Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall, the most powerful man in the world. He had been in power for more than 1,000 years. The reputation of the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall had been deeply rooted in the minds of many families. Even if Luli could be protected for 100 years, not to mention 10 years, the families wouldn't have any objection. Nobody dared to make trouble for Luli openly unless they wanted their families to be wiped out. Therefore, Luli was not afraid of the 12 royal families. He would go to any family that dared to make trouble at the northern desert by himself. After all, nobody dared to kill him in public. He would kill all the disciples of that family. The 12 royal families must not be on good terms with each other. They were also scheming against each other in the demon-slaying hall. If Luli made a big deal out of it, any family would be in trouble. Grand Master was clearly on Luli's side. Therefore, none of the families would dare to make trouble for Luli openly. The Mammoth race, Titan race, and Cyan Phoenix race were ancient races that were once wiped out by the 12 royal families. For the 12 royal families, any survivors must be exterminated. It might seem serious, but it was not. Not only the 3 races had survivors, but many other races had survivors as well. In many secret realms and small worlds, there were many ancient races. The survivors were not a threat to the 12 royal families of the Central Plains. They could be killed or not. Hiding alien races and doing business with them were not a big deal for the major families of the Central Plains. Of course, if someone made a fuss about it, it would be a different story. Lu was confident that even if God of Meng was exposed, the Samsara Palace, Hades Society, Lu family, and Pavilion of Blossoms wouldn't make a big fuss. At the very most, they would condemn Lu and find some scapegoats. Powerful warriors of their own families wouldn't come in person, because that would anger the Grandmaster. Killing some survivors of alien races or enraging the Grandmaster. How could the four forces not know which was more important? If the family patriarchs of the four forces were not idiots, they wouldn't do anything rash. If worst came to worst, he could destroy the passageway to the deserted world. Maybe after a while, another passageway connecting to the Heaven Reverse universe would appear. Of course, Lu would not tell God of Meng about this. He was just confident that no major force would come after him after he was exposed. Even if they came looking for trouble, he would try his best to ensure the safety of the deserted world. If all else failed, he would send all the recently acquired mystical materials into the deserted world and then close the passage connecting the deserted world. All right, seeing that Lu was in such a hurry, God of Ming thought about it and said, I will go with you. Don't bring too many people with you this time. Those who are too weak will be a burden. All right, just bring Yi Cha and the third elder. The main purpose of this trip was to save people. Too many people would make them a bigger target. If Yu Huaxin or Zi Huanxiao had made the breakthrough, Lu could bring them along. But Lu didn't think there was much hope. Lu sent a message for Yi Cha to come in. At the same time, he asked Mingyu to mobilize people to guard the small world of green dwarfs. He also asked Madame Yin to send someone to keep an eye on the situation at the northern desert. If anyone dared to mess around, or if warriors from other forces came in, kill them all. Soon, someone from the northern desert sent back a message that Zi Huanxiao and Yu Huaxin were still in closed-door cultivation. The two families said that they wouldn't be able to come out anytime soon. I won't wait for them. Lu made up his mind that he would set off to the Clouds Plains as soon as Yi Cha came in. With Gadameng here, he would have a good chance. As for the troubles that might arise after they were rescued, Lu would deal with it later. He would deal with it when it came. A batch of condemned prisoners had been sent over to the Snow Mountain of Dragons. Gadameng sent over some surviving members of the White Hair race as well. Yi Cha and Mingyu might have to make some arrangements before they could come in. It would take them a day or two. Lu decided to go back to cultivating the soul-shattering skill. From the foot of the Snow Mountain of Dragons came many miserable cries. There were many condemned prisoners this time. They were not powerful, but they had all reached the Soul Pond realm and built soul ponds. God of Meng sat on the Snow Mountain of Dragons with his legs crossed. He would check Little White in the Ding of Barbarian God and Lu at the foot of the mountain every now and then with a smile on his face. Lu and Little White were growing. Even though Lu hadn't learned a profound meaning to increase the power of the shockwaves, the soul-shattering skill was already quite powerful. God of Ming wasn't worried about Lu's realm. It would take time to build a fate wheel. It would take him at least half a year to build one. Otherwise, the foundation of his body would be unstable and problems could arise. Lu was almost 18. For Gadameng, he was still a kid. He was growing so fast. As long as he didn't die prematurely, Lu would have a promising future. One day later, Yi Cha and Mingyu came in. Lu didn't want to bring Mingyu with him. He asked Mingyu to help Madame Yin monitor the northern desert. Mingyu was in charge of Yi Cha's affairs. Lu told Mingyu not to let go of any suspicious person. He would rather kill the wrong person than let the Central Plains know about the deserted world. Seeing how serious Lu was, Mingyu went out at once to gather powerful warriors to set up defenses at the small world of green dwarfs. At the same time, many powerful warriors were stationed at the area of demons to make sure that no scouts could get close. Madame Yin sent many warriors to the sea at the south to keep a close watch. Many scouts were set up openly and covertly to try their best to stop any scouts from the Central Plains. Also, Madame Yin had planted many scouts in many cities and wild areas of the northern desert to make sure that any trouble that happened to the northern desert could be dealt with immediately while Lu was away. When Madame Yin and Lu were done, Lu decided to set off. He left the safety of Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang to Yi Cha and Qi Ke. He used psychic power to check Little White in the ding of Barbarian God. He punched at the ding of Barbarian God and then said, "Little White, wake up." Little White opened its eyes. The horn on its head shot out an electric arc at the lid. The lid stopped producing thunderbolts. After a while, the lid was opened and Little White flew out. "Time to work." Holding Little White in his arms, Luli said lovingly, "Go and kill some people for me." Squeak, squeak. Little White stuck out its tongue and licked Luli's face in excitement. Luli looked at the white fur on Little White and asked in surprise, "Not even thunderbolts can destroy your fur now? Or are you immune to thunderbolts now?" Squeak, squeak. Little White nodded its head proudly. Although it looked very arrogant, it was too cute, which made it seem a little cute. Luli grinned. He asked Little White to put away the ding of Barbarian God and asked God of Meng and Yi Cha, "Shall we go? Let's go to the Titan Mountain first." God of Meng said, "I have sent someone to invite Ku LV, the family patriarch of the Shadowland race. I think he is at the Titan Mountain now. It will be safer with him." Yi Cha nodded. Noticing Lu Li's confusion, Yi Cha explained, "The Shadowland race has a special ability that allows them to build powerful illusions. They're good at hiding our tracks. The family patriarch of the Shadowland race should be at the peak of the Noble Lord realm. Apart from human sovereign realm warriors, average warriors cannot sense us." Impressive. Chapter 563. Originally, there were 18 races in the deserted world. After the clan leader of the stellar race was killed by Lu Li, God of Meng unified the deserted world and exterminated some races. However, there were some races that had pledged allegiance to the Titan clan, such as the Yiksha clan. There were also other races, including the Sky Illusion clan. By the time Lu Li teleported to the Titan Mountain, a skinny old man was already waiting for them. This old man didn't look any different from human. The only obvious difference was his eyes. The old man's eyes were not black or one color. There were 9 colors in his eyes. Lu Li felt his soul was awed at first glance. The world in front of him disappeared, and the world in front of him was filled with endless 9-colored clouds. It was very strange. Illusion. Lu Li closed his eyes at once to calm himself down. He used psychic power, and the illusion disappeared. When he opened his eyes again, he looked at the old man with respect. There was a young man beside the elder. He looked to be in his 20s, and his eyes were also 9-colored. He was handsome and had a respectful expression on his face. "Ku LV, come and greet young master," God of Meng said casually. The old man bowed to God of Meng with respect and said, "Greetings, young master." God of Meng unified the deserted world and was the master of the deserted world, while Lu Li was the Saint Lord of Meng. Therefore, Lu Li's identity was particularly honorable. Naturally, Ku LV could not afford to be careless. "You're too polite. Please rise." Lu Li raised his hand slightly and motioned for them to rise. His attitude was very humble. His gaze fell on the young man beside him, and he casually asked, "Patriarch Ku, this is—" "Oh, he's my grandson." Ku LV looked at the young man dotingly and said, "This is a rare genius of our Sky Illusion tribe. His name is Ku Meng, and he is now the young master of our tribe. This time, he will follow you." "Huh?" Lu Li was surprised. The clan leader of the Shadowland race was not going himself, but his grandson? Could it be that his grandson's heavenly illusion divine art was stronger than his? Noticing Lu Li's expression, Ku LV explained with a smile, "My grandson has reached a higher level of shadowy skills than I do. He is the best at shadowy skills, but he is not experienced enough. Please give him some pointers, young master and Lord God of Meng." "Not bad, Ku Meng. His talent is amazing." God of Meng clearly knew something about Ku Meng. He nodded in approval. Lu Li had no more doubts now that God of Meng had given his approval. Ku Meng was indeed a talent at the initial stage of the Noble Lord realm. Lu Li nodded with a smile and said, "Thank you, young Master Ku. It is my honor to serve you and Lord God of Meng." Ku Meng bowed with respect. There was no arrogance on his face, which gave Lu Li a good impression. Go! Lu Li waved his hand and stepped into the teleportation formation with God of Meng and the others. They were teleported to a valley in the north. Many teleportation formations had been built, and every major tribe had one. Lu Li and the others teleported to a tribe of a major race. Without stopping, they flew toward the north. After flying for more than 2 hours, they arrived at a huge canyon. The valley was sealed off by God of Meng. Outside the valley was a tent guarded by a patriarch of the Titan race all year round. Lu Li used psychic power to check. On both sides of the valley were sentries, and there were some hidden inhibition formations. God of Meng was really careful. Let's go. God of Meng looked at Lu Li and led the way into the depth of the valley. It was dim in the valley, and the further they went, the darker it became. There were many hidden guards. After an hour, they arrived at the end of the valley. At the end of the valley was an abyss. God of Meng pointed down and said, "The teleportation formation is down there. Let's go." Lu Li released his fate wheel, and so did the others. They whooshed down. After they flew for more than 1,000 feet, there was a black fog. God of Meng shrunk his body. Yi Cha and the others began to disguise themselves as well. Kamang put on a blindfold so that nobody could see his strange eyes. God of Meng led the way, followed by Lu Li. Kamang and Yi Cha brought up the rear. They flew on. Soon, Lu Li felt he had touched an inhibition formation. After a white glare, he began to spin violently. He felt dizzy. Clearly, he was being teleported out. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Li felt he had landed. He opened his eyes at once and checked with psychic power. It was a cave with a faint blue glare. God of Meng and the others were nearby, not nervous at all. "Saint Lord, don't worry." God of Meng had turned into a middle-aged man. His dark golden skin was almost bronze in color. He had put on an armor, which made him look majestic and ferocious. God of Meng explained, "This is a cave in a deserted mountain. There are many powerful Xian beasts nearby. When I found a teleportation formation, I had people dig more tunnels and turn it into a maze. Average warriors will find it hard to find this place." Okay, God of Meng seemed to be all brawn, but he was quite meticulous. Seeing that Lu Li was fine, God of Meng took the lead and walked out. After a couple of miles, they came to a dead end. It was a stone wall. Wait a minute. Lu Li checked the stone wall carefully. There was some fluctuation of inhibition formation. He nodded to himself and said, "The stone wall is well made. Those without strong psychic power can't see it." Buzzing, third patriarch knocked on the stone wall for several times. After a glare, the stone wall shrank down, revealing a tunnel. God of Meng led Lu Li to the outside. There were tunnels everywhere, extending in all directions. It was a maze. "Let me lead the way." Third patriarch had walked back and forth 4 times. He was experienced. He led the way, and it took them almost an hour to get out of the cave. Woo, woo, woo. From the distance came a howl of wolves. Lu Li checked with psychic power and found that there was a wolf den nearby with at least thousands of wolves. "These are all 5th-rank Xian beasts. I told them not to kill the wolves." God of Meng explained with a smile. Lu Li gave him a thumbs up. The wolf den was a natural barrier. Average warriors wouldn't dare to get close. Even noble Lord Realm warriors wouldn't stay long when they saw so many wolves. It would be less likely for them to go into the cave. "Let's go." Third patriarch led the way. They sped up to avoid being surrounded by the wolves. Nobody wanted to kill a single wolf. Those were the spiritual beasts that guarded the cave. The 5th-rank wolves were fast, but they couldn't catch up with them. They got rid of the wolves and headed to the north. While leading the way, third patriarch explained, "This is the northernmost part of the Serenity Plains. There's a territory of a 5th-rank force nearby. Not many powerful warriors will find us. We will reach the Serene Cloud Sea in half a day. Across the Serene Cloud Sea will be the Cloud's Plains. It will take us 7 or 8 days to get to the Drifting Cloud Hall from here if we control our speed. If we fly at full speed, it will only take us 3 or 4 days at most. Control our speed. Be careful." They had been looking for Lu Ling for more than 2 years. A few more days didn't matter anymore. It would be easier for them to save her if they kept a low profile. Otherwise, they would be damned if their identities were exposed before they even arrived at the drifting cloud city. P.S. I have a cold and I feel dizzy. I deleted the 4th chapter because it was too ugly. There are only 3 chapters left today. I'm going to buy some medicine. Chapter 564. They left the Serenity Plains without a hitch. This was a remote place, a territory of a 5th-rank family. The most powerful warriors, there were only 2 at the Noble Lord realm. How could average warriors find Luli? The serene cloud sea was not large. It was just an inland sea. There was also a legend that the Serenity Plains and the Cloud's Plains were connected. Later on, a chosen warrior fought with an enemy and split the 2 plains in one move. The place in between was filled with seawater and became the serene cloud sea. This legend was a bit exaggerated. After Luli heard 3rd Patriarch's words, he still didn't believe it. Luli smiled. After all, it would take them more than a day to cross the serene cloud sea, even though it was a small place. They were not fast, but the distance was at least tens of millions of miles. Splitting open an inland sea with a radius of tens of millions of miles in one move? Not even an immortal could do that. Luli didn't believe it. As a matter of fact, the legend might be true. God of Ming suddenly added, I don't know if others can do that, but Emperor of Heaven Reverse probably can. How is that possible? Luli and Kumang opened their eyes wide in disbelief. Was he a human being? But on second thought, Emperor of Heaven Reverse seemed to have ascended to heaven. He was no longer a human being, but an immortal. Maybe he really could do that. Do you know how powerful Emperor of Heaven Reverse was back then? God of Meng said with enthusiasm. Back then, the 10,000 races went through 3 wars, but many powerful ones survived. As far as I know, the 10,000 races had at least 1,000 warriors at the peak of the Earth immortal realm and 9 ancestral gods that were even stronger than the peak. But God of Ming's eyes glowed. He said with excitement, the powerful warriors of the 10,000 races worked together to fight against the rising human race. When they were attacking the human territory, Emperor of Heaven Reverse came out alone. In one move, he killed more than half of the more than 1,000 powerful warriors and 6 of the 9 ancient gods. That was the victory of the human race. Luli, can you imagine how powerful Emperor of Heaven Reverse was back then? What? Luli was stunned. More than 1,000 powerful warriors of the 10,000 races, all of them at the peak of the Earth immortal realm, and all of them had their own skills. But Emperor of Heaven Reverse killed more than half of them in one move. 6 of the 9 ancestral gods were killed as well. What realm was Emperor of Heaven Reverse at that time? Was there a realm above the Earth immortal? Luli didn't know and couldn't figure it out. But that did not stop him from feeling astonished. Human sovereign realm warriors were already horrifying enough. They could collapse mountains and crack the Earth. One move could flatten a city. Earth immortal realm warriors were even more horrifying. More than half of the 1,000 warriors at the peak of the Earth immortal realm were killed by Emperor of Heaven Reverse. In addition to Luli, Yi Cha and the others were exclaiming as well. For them, Emperor of Heaven Reverse was their enemy and the culprit that ruined the glory of the 10,000 races. However, such a powerful warrior was worthy of respect, be it friend or foe. Luli asked after a pause, God of Meng, is there a realm above the Earth immortal realm? Yes, God of Meng said with certainty. Every chosen warrior of a human race can defeat the barbarian race, Asmodeans, Feather race, and Voodoo race. They are clearly above the Earth immortal realm. Our Titan race refers to experts of this level as Elder Gods. Although the titles are different, their strength is roughly the same. Clearly, Emperor of Heaven Reverse's realm was higher than the chosen warriors. That was why he ascended. For so many years, no human beings or special races have ascended to the immortal world because no one has reached the realm of Emperor of Heaven Reverse. Okay, I understand now. Luli now had a clear idea. Those that could reach the realm above the Earth immortal realm were the chosen warriors and elder gods. Those that could reach the realm of Emperor of Heaven Reverse would be qualified to ascend to the immortal world. They were not sure if the average chosen warriors or elder gods could split open the serene cloud sea. But God of Ming said that Emperor of Heaven Reverse was capable enough. Then the sea might have been created by Emperor of Heaven Reverse. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a legend. While they were talking, they could vaguely see Lu Li's land. God of Ming suddenly said, "Let's stop talking. There are scouts up ahead. Let's go around." They followed God of Ming and took a detour. They even dived into the water to keep a low profile. Whether or not they could save Lu Ling depended on whether or not they would be exposed. Once that happened, it would be difficult to save Lu Ling. An hour later, God of Ming went ashore with them. Third Patriarch pointed to the northeast and said, "This way. The Clouds Plains is a big place, and there is still a long way to go. Because of the war, all the teleportation formations in the cities are closed. Taking teleportation formations would be too conspicuous and would attract attention." Okay, it was only a couple of days, so they didn't mind. It was safer to keep a low profile. Third Patriarch led the way, and Yi Cha took the lead. Lu Li had brought Yi Cha here so that he could be the scout. The Cyan Phoenix race had the best scouts in the world. With Yi Cha here, they wouldn't have to worry about being spotted. God of Ming retracted his psychic power, seeing that Yi Cha had gone to explore the way. He had no doubts about the abilities of the Cyan Phoenix race. Not to mention that the clan leader of the Cyan Phoenix race was scouting in person. Yi Cha left marks along the way, and Third Patriarch led the way. Following the marks, they were safe. They didn't run into any warriors after half a day. The way Yi Cha led the way was remote. They were walking in the mountains. For the others, it was no different. They could go from one mountain to another as if they were walking on flat ground. Kamang kept a low profile along the way. He said little and was respectful. He couldn't afford to be careless with God of Ming here. It was an honor for him to go with God of Ming. He must have never been out of the deserted world, so he was curious about the outside world. His eyes were full of vigor as he glanced around. He didn't seem tired at all. They pressed on in silence. Lu Li was eager and excited, but he didn't want to chat too much. He just sped up a bit, trying to get to the drifting cloud region as soon as possible. 5 days later, Lu Li realized it was the wisest decision to bring Yi Cha along. They had been following the marks left by Yi Cha for the past 5 days, but they didn't run into any warriors. It was as if there were so few warriors at the Clouds Plains that they couldn't run into any. They had covered a long distance in 5 days. They weren't at the top of their speed, but they were fast enough. They were at least at the speed of the Eternal Realm. They hadn't rested for 5 days and 5 nights. It was enough for them to travel across the entire northern desert. Whoosh! Yi Cha suddenly came back. He cupped his fists and said to Lu Li, "We will arrive at the drifting cloud region in 1 day. Ahead of us is the battlefield. There are more than 10 million warriors on both sides, and there are hundreds of times more scouts. Therefore, it will be more difficult for us to move forward. Saint Lord, I think you should rest for half a day to recharge your energy. We will go straight to the drifting cloud region at one go." Okay, even though Lu Li didn't feel tired, it was better for him to take a break. Only when his body and spirit were at their peak could he deal with any unexpected situations. They found a valley. Third Patriarch went to patrol nearby, and Yi Cha came back to rest. Soon, he fell asleep. God of Ming and Kamang were meditating with their eyes closed to recharge their energy. Lu Li, on the other hand, couldn't calm down. He kept looking to the northeast, his eyes glistening. Lu Ling had been away from him for too long. In Lu Li's mind, he could see her clearly but not clearly at the same time. It was the first time he was so close to her. Lu Li's heart was boiling, and he couldn't calm it down. "Sister, wait for me. We will meet soon." Chapter 565. After half a day of rest, they had recovered mentally and physically. This time, Yi Cha didn't go ahead to explore the way because there were scouts everywhere. The marks he left behind were of no use. He walked in front of them, but he moved around like a ghost. Every now and then, he would make a gesture to Third Patriarch, and third patriarch would lead the way. God of Meng's psychic power was much stronger than Yi Cha's, but God of Meng trusted Yi Cha completely. In terms of scouts, God of Meng believed that nobody could be better than the Cyan Phoenix race. There are so many scouts, Lu Li and the others didn't even have to use psychic power. They could see people moving in the distance. Kumang held his breath as he followed Lu Li. Sometimes, Lu Li sped up to the top of his speed, and sometimes slowed down. Kumang and third patriarch were both at the noble lord realm, and God of Meng was at the human sovereign realm. But Lu Li's speed surprised them. No matter how fast they were, Lu Li could keep up with them. Naturally, they were surprised that a man who hadn't even reached the middle stage of the eternal realm could be so fast. Third patriarch and God of Meng knew that Lu Li had always been a freak, so they weren't surprised. It was Kumang's first time meeting Lu Li. He thought Lu Li was just an average warrior of the eternal realm, that God of Meng and the others had taken him as their master. Now, he realized that he had underestimated Lu Li. Kumang understood. If Lu Li didn't have some special means, how could he have convinced God of Meng, who was at the human sovereign realm? Judging by God of Meng's attitude, Lu Li was willing to follow Lu Li. There were too many scouts, and they were all from the three forces. According to third patriarch, the Silver Wolf Mountain, the Palace of Black Moon, and the Lotus Society were nearby. This used to be the territory of the Drifting Cloud Hall. Many cities had been taken over by the three forces, and their armies were moving closer to the Drifting Cloud Hall. The Drifting Cloud Hall was losing ground. Their main forces were gathered at the Drifting Cloud Hall. They had basically given up on the Drifting Cloud Hall. Only some forces organized some armies to fight back. Crack! From the front came a clear sound of bones cracking. Yi Cha could not sneak over, so he had to kill a scout. But he was good. He didn't make too much noise, and threw the scout into his interspatial ring without leaving any trace. Just like that, everyone nervously made their way forward. They inevitably encountered some scouts along the way, but they were all killed by Yi Cha. Fortunately, there were too many scouts here. Disappearing for a short period of time wouldn't attract too much attention. After advancing non-stop for 6 hours, the number of scouts gradually decreased. It seemed that they had already charged out of the encirclement of the three great powers' armies. The three forces had 3 human sovereign realm cultivators, and they must be in the army. If they attracted attention, they would be in big trouble once a battle broke out. Any Renhuang from the three forces would make it difficult for them to escape. No one dared to be careless and kept moving forward. When it was dark, Yi Cha finally let out a sigh of relief. She turned around and said, "It's okay. There are no more scouts here. We should be in the hinterland of the Drifting Cloud Hall's territory. Theoretically speaking, we should be able to enter the Drifting Cloud District in half a day. Saint Lord, do you want to rest? There's no need. We'll travel through the night. Let's go to the Cloud Water region first." How could Lu Li be in the mood to rest? They had only been on the road for a few hours, and they were all following Yi Jia. They didn't need to scout or think too much, so they weren't tired at all. God of Ming nodded. Yi Cha had to lead the way. They sped up under the moonlight and the stars. By daybreak, they arrived at a small city. Yi Cha went to check and came back to report. "We have entered the Drifting Cloud District, but the search in the city is strict. I think the Drifting Cloud Hall is afraid that there will be scouts from the enemy. Only people from the Drifting Cloud District can enter the city." Entering the city was a piece of cake for them. The most powerful warriors in the city were only at the Eternal Realm. They wouldn't be able to find them. Lu Li thought about it, waved his hand, and said, "Let's go to the city and get some information first." They approached the city quickly. They didn't enter through the gate. Instead, they found a corner and jumped up. God of Meng and Yi Cha's psychic powers were so strong that they could sense the surroundings easily. They walked into an alley where Yi Cha found an abandoned temple. He waved his hand and said, "Go in and take a seat. I will go and check." Third Patriarch wanted to go in by himself so that Yi Cha could have some rest. But Yi Cha insisted on leaving. Lu Li and the others sat in the temple. 2 hours later, Yi Cha came back with a lot of information. The Drifting Cloud Hall had gathered all the affiliated forces warriors at the Drifting Cloud City, the Stormy Cloud City, and the Flaming Cloud City. The three cities formed a triangular formation, responding to each other. At the moment, the three cities had been sealed off. Nobody was allowed to go in or out. Most of the civilians in the cities had been moved out. There were only warriors in the cities. It would be difficult to sneak in. Because of the lockdown, the outside world didn't have much information. They didn't know anything about the situation in the three cities. Sister, which city is she in? Lu Li frowned. It wouldn't be difficult to save Lu Ling. All they had to do was to locate her whereabouts and run away as soon as they found her. The Drifting Cloud Hall wouldn't make a big fuss when they were faced with a formidable enemy. After all, Lu Ling wasn't that important to the Drifting Cloud Hall. They weren't sure which city Lu Ling was in. If they acted rashly and alerted the enemy, the Drifting Cloud Hall might misunderstand. By that time, there would be more problems. They could not openly declare war against the Drifting Cloud Hall. Could they? Do you have a map? Lu Li asked Yicha. Yicha was the best scout. How could he not think of this? Taking out a map, Lu Li pointed to the three cities and said, "This is the Drifting Cloud City, the headquarters of the Drifting Cloud Hall. There must be human sovereign realm warriors here. They might be their master. Here are the Stormy Cloud City and the Blazing Cloud City respectively." Lu Li took a few looks. The three cities were not far away from each other. They were in a triangular formation, responding to each other. If any of the cities were to be attacked, the other two cities could come to help immediately. There were teleportation formations in the cities, so powerful warriors could be teleported over quickly. "Let's go there." Pointing to a small city in the middle of the three cities, Lu Li said, "We will sneak into the city and capture some powerful warriors of the Drifting Cloud Hall. We will interrogate them and find out which city my sister is in." "We cannot go there." God of Meng shook his head and said, "This is a small city, but it is in the middle of the three big cities. There will be many scouts from the three forces swarming in. The Drifting Cloud Hall will not allow their enemies to send scouts into their territory. Therefore, this small city is as dangerous as the three big cities." Lu Li thought about it and found it reasonable. He turned to God of Meng and asked, "Then where should we go?" "Here." God of Meng pointed to a mountain on the map and explained, "This mountain is in the middle of the three big cities as well. I think there will be many scouts from both sides. But the terrain here is complicated. With Kameng here, we can build an illusion and hide. There are many scouts in the mountain. We can capture warriors of the Drifting Cloud Hall and interrogate them for information." Lu Li took a closer look and saw the name of the mountain. He put away the map and said with a nod, "Okay, let's go to the Mist Mountain. P.S. I have a fever. I have been on a drip for an entire afternoon. I only have 2 chapters today. It is not serious. I won't stop updating. I will continue to update later." Chapter 566. Mount Mist was famous in the Drifting Cloud region. The mountain was towering and shrouded in mist all year round. The view was beautiful as well, like a fairyland. 2 families of the Drifting Cloud Hall had built residences here. Many females used to live here, and so did some children. There were some Xian beasts on the mountain for them to practice. When the war broke out, the Xian beasts in Mount Mist were nowhere to be seen. The mountain was covered in mist, and it was in the middle of 3 big cities. Naturally, it had become a paradise for scouts. The 3 forces of the Silver Wolf Mountain had sent many scouts to hide in the mountain. The Drifting Cloud Hall had no choice but to send out scouts. Mount Mist had become a battlefield for scouts. Today, there was a group of strangers in Mount Mist. Lu Li and the other 4 sneaked into the mountain. In just 2 hours, they had run into at least 10 teams of scouts. Since the situation was unclear, Yicha didn't dare to kill anyone. He just let God of Meng and Lu Li away at once. Along the way, the situation became more and more difficult. Even Yicha was suffering. If a scout was compared to a rat, then Mount Yunwu was simply a rat's nest. There were rats scurrying around everywhere. But there was one discovery that made Yicha and Lu Li feel relieved. There was not 1 nest of rats, but 2. The rats on the 2 sides were fighting each other. Lu Li was relieved after encountering 2 battles between scouts and many corpses. He waved his hand and ordered that if they couldn't dodge, they should kill them directly. Yicha was careful. He disguised himself, even when he killed some scouts. Otherwise, he, a warrior of the noble lord realm, would see through his disguise. Few of the scouts were at the noble lord realm. Just like that, the team rushed into the depth of the mountain. Yicha found a hidden cave easily. What was interesting was that there were a few scouts hiding in the cave. They were from the three forces, but they were all killed by Yicha. Komang, I will leave it to you. God of Meng used psychic power to check and decided to camp here. He waved his hand, and Komang took out some formation stones and began to build illusions. He was fast. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, the cave was covered in mist. It was impossible to see the cave clearly. Good. When everything was ready, God of Ming used psychic power to check. He nodded in satisfaction and said, "The pupil has surpassed the master. Komang, you are better than your grandpa." Komang was a little excited. His eyes sparkled, but his expression was still rather reserved. He only smiled shyly. Luli used psychic power to check. Apart from the addition of clouds and mist, there was not much difference. Luli was confused. God of Meng looked at him and said with a faint smile, "Saint Lord, go out and have a look. You will never find the entrance." There is such a thing? Luli did not believe it. His soul was strong. He could go in and out of the cave with his eyes closed. How could he not find the entrance? His body shot out and passed through the mist at the entrance of the cave. He walked for 1,000 meters before turning back. When Luli turned around, he noticed that the surrounding scenery had changed. The rugged terrain had become flat ground. Furthermore, when he used his divine perception to scan the fog, he did not detect any cave. Most importantly, he did not sense any ripples from any restrictions. Moreover, there was a boulder nearby. Now, there was no boulder or cave. It was just a piece of flat ground. Luli still did not believe it. The cave was only 1,000 meters ahead of him. How could he not find the entrance? He closed his eyes and didn't use psychic power. He just walked forward in a straight line. 500 meters, 700 meters, 1,000 meters. Luli suddenly opened his eyes in shock. He had not reached the entrance of the cave. He had been walking forward without seeing the stone peak. The cave had disappeared miraculously. Impossible. Luli looked around with his eyes wide open. He walked forward randomly and changed his route constantly. Both the cave and the stone peak were real. They could not have vanished into thin air. Even a blind cat could run into a dead mouse. What happened next shocked Luli. He wandered around for the time for 1 incense stick to burn, but he could not find the stone peak or enter the cave. The cave had disappeared miraculously. What a marvelous technique. Once again, Luli witnessed the power of the ancient races. Still, he didn't ask about it. He stood in the fog, quietly, thinking. The stone peak and the cave could not have disappeared. He walked out in a straight line and went back in a straight line. There could only be one explanation. When he went back, he did not walk in a straight line. The illusion was affecting his soul, his judgment, and his senses. What was more, he thought he'd been walking around in a small area. Having figured it out, Luli had a plan. He released his fate wheel and let it circle around him. The fate wheel kept expanding outwards. Sherphone was nearby, and he would definitely bump into him. "Okay, Saint Lord, come on in," God of Ming said. Luli put away his fate wheel, followed the voice, and entered the cave. Even though he had broken the illusion, it was because he knew the cave was nearby. If he didn't know there was a stone peak and a cave here, he wouldn't be able to find the cave. Li's eyes glowed. He looked at Komang and said, "Young Master Ku's skill is an eye-opener for me. It is powerful, and I have never seen it before." "Young Master, you are flattering me," Komang said modestly. "This is the best of the Shadowland race. Rarely do we have powerful warriors. At the end of the day, this is just an auxiliary skill, not the way of the king." Luli didn't exchange pleasantries with Komang. He looked at Yicha and said, "I will leave the rest to you. Go and capture them and interrogate them for information. Saint Lord, please sit down. I will take care of it." Yicha nodded and left with Third Patriarch. Luli knew it was pointless to be impatient. He sat with his legs crossed and continued to cultivate Xian energy to stabilize his realm. God of Meng did the same. Kumeng, on the other hand, had to pay attention to the surroundings at all times so that no scouts could sneak in. As long as they didn't enter the cave and use psychic power, nobody could find them unless they were at the human sovereign realm. In less than an hour, Yi Cha and Third Patriarch each brought a scout in. Yi Cha began to search Lu Li's soul without any interrogation. Lu Li opened his eyes when Yi Cha was done. Yi Cha shook his head and left again. So did Third Patriarch. This time, after half a day, Yi Cha and Third Patriarch only came back with one scout. This time, the scout was at the initial stage of the Noble Lord realm. Clearly, he was a leader. This time, Lu Li was nervous. He stared at Yi Cha and searched his soul. After an hour, the Noble Lord realm scout fell to the ground. His soul collapsed, and he died. Yi Cha opened his eyes, tired and disappointed. He sighed and said, "This is troublesome." According to this scout's memory, Saintis is the most mysterious person in the Drifting Cloud Hall. In his memory, Saintis only appeared twice. The first time was when she was named as Saintis. The second time was when she broke the leg of a young master of the Drifting Cloud Hall. That young master was a disciple of the immediate family, and he was at the initial stage of the Noble Lord realm. This caused a great sensation at the Drifting Cloud Hall, but it was left unsettled. After the war broke out, there was no news of Saintis. Initial stage of the Noble Lord realm? How is that possible? Chapter 567. The Saintis of the Drifting Cloud Hall was too low-key, which troubled Lu Li and the others. 2 of the 3 cities might have human sovereign realm warriors. They would be exposed if they went in at random. Lu Li was here to take the Saintis. How could they do that without finding her? Before they met Lu Ling, they could not reveal their identities. Otherwise, powerful warriors of the entire Cloud's plains might come and kill them. The Drifting Cloud Hall and the 3 forces might stop fighting. God of Meng must be killed first. After all, God of Meng was an alien race, a public enemy of the human race. There was no other way. Lu Li had to wait. He asked Yi Cha and the others to keep searching while he waited for news of the Saintis. Fortunately, Kumeng's illusion was strong. Lu Li and the others didn't have to worry about being discovered. They could rest and cultivate leisurely. Lu Li understood that he could not be in a hurry. If he were alone, it wouldn't matter. But now, he was with God of Meng, Yi Cha, and Kumeng. If he acted recklessly, he could get them killed. Yi Cha told Third Patriarch to stay in the cave, and he went out by himself. This time, he didn't catch any scouts. He wanted to check the small cities or find a way to sneak into the 3 major cities. It was risky. Lu Li warned him not to be impulsive and to be careful. If it was not feasible, he could give up. After all, the armies of the 3 forces hadn't arrived yet. There was still time and opportunity. Yi Cha nodded and left. Lu Li was not worried about him as long as he didn't take risks. Yi Cha had reached the later stage of the Noble Lord realm. Apart from human sovereign realm warriors, nobody could stop him. It seemed that Yi Cha would be gone for a long time. Lu Li thought he might as well cultivate and study the soul-shattering skill at the same time. He had learned the soul-shattering skill successfully, but he didn't know its specific power since he had never fought against a powerful enemy. Of course, the soul-shattering skill was not enough to deal with human sovereign realm warriors unless Lu Li could increase the vibration waves by a lot. God of Meng gave Lu Li a good idea. Unfortunately, it was hard to carry it out unless he could learn a profound meaning and integrate it perfectly. What kind of profound meaning can increase the vibration waves? Lu Li was having a headache. Profound meanings were something that could only be discovered by luck. To force one to learn profound meanings was even more difficult. Activate the force in heaven and earth to increase my strength? Or compress my strength? Explode after entering the body? Ming Yu sure can activate the power of heaven and earth. However, the power of heaven and earth is not completely under my control. Can it be turned into a shockwave and enter the enemy's body? Compressing the power and sending it into the enemy's body is even more difficult. How can power be compressed? And how can soul power be compressed? The more Luli thought about it, the more difficult it became. God of Ming pointed out a way for him, but Luli felt it was a long and bumpy road. To reach the end was too difficult. He couldn't release the barbarian god cauldron here, and Little White couldn't refine its body. Feeling bored, it took a nap in the corner after swallowing a few soul crystals. God of Ming seemed to be sitting with his legs crossed. God of Ming could not tell if he was cultivating or resting. Kamang could not afford to be careless. He kept an eye on the surroundings and the formation of illusion. Time was of the essence in cultivation. Luli had been cultivating for 6 days. Yicha hadn't come back since he left. Luli didn't know where he went. God of Ming, on the other hand, was not in a hurry. Third Patriarch wanted to go and find Yicha, but he couldn't do so without Luli's order. Luli ate something after he woke up, asked around, and then fell asleep. He went back to cultivation after he woke up. Before Yicha could figure out what was going on, there was nothing they could do. Third Patriarch didn't go out, so they were in the dark. They had to wait for Yicha to come back. Another 5 days passed before Luli came out. He had built up some Xian energy, but not much progress in the soul-shattering skill. Luli decided to give it up for now. He decided to have a real fight. God of Ming opened his eyes slightly when he heard that Luli wanted to go out and fight. Then he closed his eyes again without saying anything. Third Patriarch stood up and said, "Saint Lord, let me go with you. We can look after each other." Okay, Luli thought about it. It would be more convenient with Third Patriarch around. He nodded to Kamang and walked out with Little White. Luli once killed many condemned prisoners to try out the soul-shattering skill. However, those condemned prisoners were just standing there, waiting for him to kill them. Their abilities were too weak to be counted as real fights. An attack-type secret technique could only improve faster in actual combat. Outside the cave, Luli said to Third Patriarch, "Just follow me. If I alarm the enemies nearby when I fight, you keep them busy. Do not let them run away. There shouldn't be many powerful warriors on Mount Mist." Luli wouldn't be afraid, even if there were warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord Realm. Noble Lord Realm warriors posed no threat to him. Also, he had to find warriors of the Noble Lord Realm so that he could better practice the soul-shattering skill. Third Patriarch was a bit worried. After all, Luli was only at the initial stage of the Eternal Realm. Would he be in danger if he ran into warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord Realm? That being said, Third Patriarch didn't say anything on the thought of Yi Cha's evaluation of Luli's abilities. He had to follow Luli secretly. Luli didn't hide his tracks, but he didn't move too fast in case he would attract too many scouts. He carried the divine weapon of Dragon King on his back and swaggered around. At the same time, he released his psychic power to check the surroundings. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Luli found a scout who was hiding underground and using disguise skill. If Luli's psychic power was not strong enough, he would have to get closer to find the scout. Middle stage of the Eternal Realm? Good. Luli tried to sense and pretended that he didn't see the scout. He swaggered on. Third Patriarch had already noticed the scout. He wanted to warn Luli, but Luli waved his hand behind him, clearly telling him not to move. Bang! When Luli was more than 300 feet away from the scout, the ground suddenly burst open. A man with a dagger in his hand came at Luli from the ground like a poisonous snake. "Ha ha!" Luli smiled. He drew the divine weapon of Dragon King from his back calmly and cut at the man's dagger. The man's dagger was just an average Xian artifact. It was broken by Luli at once. The divine weapon of Dragon King went on and landed on the man's head. Bang! With a muffled sound, the man's body trembled, but he wasn't smashed away. He just fell to the ground. Then he started to bleed from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, but his head didn't explode. Third Patriarch, who was behind Luli, used psychic power to check. He nodded to himself. He was too nervous just now. Luli was really powerful. For Luli, killing an Eternal Realm warrior was as easy as killing a chicken. Too weak. Luli stomped on the man's head so that nobody would notice. He put away the divine weapon of Dragon King and moved on. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, Luli found another scout who had just sneaked over from a distance. Luli pretended to hide in the bushes and waited for the scout. Whoosh! Before the scouts arrived, Third Patriarch sneaked over and said nervously in a low voice, "Saint Lord, there are 4 scouts from the Drifting Cloud Hall, and one of them is of the Noble Lord realm. Shall we retreat now?" "Back off for what?" Luli said with excitement. "Kill them all. You go to the side and observe the situation. I will take down that Noble Lord realm warrior later. Search his soul and see if you can find anything. P.S. Had a high fever last night, and he is still on in 4 today. Miserable." Chapter 568. Scouts were usually not the most powerful in fighting, but they were quite good at assassination and running. Third Patriarch was afraid that something might happen to Luli, so he asked Luli to leave, because he was afraid that something might happen to Luli. For Luli, Noble Lord Realm warriors were nothing. He could deal with hundreds of Noble Lord Realm warriors at the same time, let alone one. Third Patriarch didn't dare to disobey Luli, so he went away. Luli stayed where he was. After a while, the scout rushed over. He sensed Luli's presence with psychic power. The scout's expression didn't change. His speed suddenly soared, but he didn't make the slightest sound as he shot forward like a fox. Hundreds of feet away, he took out a sickle and cut at Luli's neck. The scouts at Mount Mist were either from the 3 Forces or the Drifting Cloud Hall. This scout was clearly from the 3 Forces. He didn't see any mark of the 3 Forces on Luli, so he chose to kill him at once. Luli used psychic power to check to the left. He could vaguely sense there were 4 people more than 2,000 feet away from him. Luli had no more concerns. He didn't even look at the scout coming at him. He drew his divine weapon of Dragon King from his back and smashed at a man in front of him. Bang! With a muffled sound, the scythe was broken by Luli. However, the scout reacted quickly. He suddenly sped up and dodged to the side. Then he waved his right hand, and a black ray flew out. The ray was glowing. Clearly, it was poisonous. Luli didn't know how penetrative the hidden weapons were, so he didn't take the risk. He swung the divine weapon of Dragon King in an arc and blocked all the hidden weapons. Whoosh, whoosh, Luli heard 4 noises. He knew that the 4 scouts of the Drifting Cloud Hall were coming, but he didn't panic. Fate Wheel appeared under his feet. With a white glare, Luli generated clones of himself. The scout was dumbfounded. He wanted to shoot out more hidden weapons, but he didn't know which Luli they were aimed at. He just waved randomly. Whoosh! From behind him came a noise. By the time the scout turned around, a long and narrow saber was coming at him. He had to use the broken sickle to block it. Go to hell! Luli's divine weapon of Dragon King smashed half of the scythe and then landed on the man's head. Powerful energy vibrated in, followed by soul vibration. The warrior's soul pond could not withstand Luli's shockwaves, and it was shattered. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. On the other side, 4 scouts floated over like ghosts, just in time to see the scouts of the 3 major forces being killed. They were confused. Could Luli be a hidden scout of the Drifting Cloud Hall, since he killed scouts of the 3 forces? However, he didn't have the mark of the Drifting Cloud Hall anymore. Luli generated clones again. Dozens of clones flew to all directions and targeted the 3 scouts of the Eternal Realm. The 4 scouts of the Drifting Cloud Hall were filled with killing intent. The Noble Lord Realm leader shouted, "Watch out!" Bang! As soon as he finished his words, a scout's head exploded into a rain of blood. Luli didn't control his strength this time, and the scout's head exploded. Whoosh, whoosh, the 3 of them found out where Luli was at once. The Noble Lord Realm warrior released his bead of life. There was a purple glare on his neck, and a wavy mark appeared. Swish, swish. Strands of blue energy surged out from his neck and entered his bead of life. Then the bead of life began to spin quickly. The blue energy spread to all sides in the form of waves and enveloped Luli in an instant. Luli felt he was slowed down. He was shocked. This bloodline skill could slow down a warrior by more than half. This was a powerful skill. Not daring to be careless, Luli used his psychic power to pierce through the soul pond of the Noble Lord Realm warrior. The warrior had no soul protection treasure outside his soul pond, so he was stunned. Bang, bang, the most powerful noble Lord Realm warrior was stunned. It was too easy for the other two Eternal Realm warriors to kill him. After Lu Li's clones came out, he killed the two easily. Their soul ponds were shattered into dust. Whoosh, third patriarch flew over. He put one hand on the noble Lord Realm warrior who was stunned. His hand glowed in green as he began to search the warrior's soul by force. Third patriarch put his poisonous sting on the warrior's neck, ready to deliver a fatal blow at any time. He was not as powerful as Icha, so he must be careful in case he was killed. Third patriarch's worry was unnecessary. Lu Li had been attacking the noble Lord Realm warrior with soul attacks. The warrior couldn't even protect his soul. How could he kill Lu Li? After a while, the noble Lord Realm warrior collapsed to the ground. Third patriarch said with delight, "The armies of the three forces have entered the drifting cloud city. That great patriarch with the holy light profound meaning is in the drifting cloud city, and so is our family patriarch. Now, we can prove that there is no human sovereign realm warrior at the stormy cloud city. According to the memory of this scout, I think their Saintess and future family patriarch are at the stormy cloud city." The stormy cloud city? Lu Li was intrigued. If Saintess was at the stormy cloud city, if they could confirm that the Saintess was at the stormy cloud city, they could find the Saintess. Then they could save people and leave at once. Saint Lord, third patriarch thought about it and said, "I think many scouts of the drifting cloud hall know about this. So, our family patriarch must know as well. He hasn't come back for a long time. I think he must have gone to the stormy cloud city. I think we should wait patiently. If our family patriarch is sure, then we can act." Sure. Lu Li resisted the urge to go to the stormy cloud city. The war between the three forces and the drifting cloud hall was imminent. Since the Saintess had a special identity at the drifting cloud hall, she might show up soon. Given Yi Cha's abilities, as long as she showed up, he could get some information. Lu Li had to be patient and walk around the Mount Mist to practice the soul-shattering skill. Just now, he had made a mistake and crushed a warrior's head. It meant that he was not familiar enough with the skill. Third Patriarch was not worried about Lu Li's abilities. They flew on and killed all the scouts they ran into. After more than half a day, Lu Li had killed more than 100 scouts. But there were fewer scouts on the mountain than before. Both sides must have sent back many scouts because the war was about to break out. After more than half a day, Lu Li had become more familiar with the soul-shattering skill. That being said, he clearly felt he was still far from being able to deal with a human sovereign realm warrior. Even if he could sneak up on a human sovereign realm warrior, he wouldn't be able to kill one. Saint Lord, when the sky darkened, a ghostly figure floated over. Lu Li heard it was Yi Cha. He stopped and said with joy, "Yi Cha, how is it? Have you found my sister?" "Yes." Yi Cha stood next to Lu Li, but he didn't seem to be overjoyed. He said solemnly, "She is at the Drifting Cloud City, and she showed up in public with the master of the Drifting Cloud Hall. Unfortunately, she was wearing a mask, and nobody saw her face. I'm not sure that the Saintess is Lady Ling." Lu Li was troubled. The master of the Drifting Cloud Hall had been at the human sovereign realm for more than 500 years. Even if he was sure that the Saintess was Lu Ling, could God of Meng save her? The Drifting Cloud City was the headquarters of the Drifting Cloud Hall. P.S. I have been on in 4-drip for half a day and went to work for half a day. I really don't have time to write. I feel better now. Thank you for your concern. Chapter 569. We are not going to wait. Lu Li decided to take the risk. The three forces would attack the three cities soon. By then, it would be even more impossible to sneak into the cities. What if the Saintess was killed? Lu Li planned to sneak into the Drifting Cloud City to confirm the identity of the Saintess. As long as it was confirmed, the rescue would be much easier. Let's go back. Lu Li and Yi Cha waved their hands. Without saying anything, Lu Li led Yi Cha and Yi Cha to the cave. Outside the cave, Meng let them in. God of Meng opened his eyes at once. When Yi Cha told him the information, God of Meng frowned. Clearly, he found it difficult to advance or retreat. I will sneak into the drifting cloud city by myself later. You wait for me outside. Luli said. Yi Cha shook his head at once and said, Saint Lord, you cannot do that. The drifting cloud city has been taken over by the army. We cannot sneak in. Even if we can, we will be exposed. We have to go in or we will not be able to figure out anything from the outside. Luli insisted, I want to catch a scout and take his identity to sneak into the city. You can search his soul, right? Let's get to the bottom of this scout's 8 generations of ancestors and disguise ourselves a little. Then we'll be able to impersonate him and enter. Seeing that Yi Cha and God of Meng were still frowning, Luli continued, Once the 3 forces attack the 3 cities, there will be 5 human sovereign realm warriors nearby. By then, even if God of Meng can save us, we cannot escape unharmed. I am only at the eternal realm, and I will not attract too much attention. Even if something goes wrong and a bunch of noble Lord realm warriors come after me, I can escape unharmed. Also, the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall has promised to protect me for 10 years. If I reveal my identity, not even the Grand Master of the Drifting Cloud Hall will kill me. Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall? God of Meng was surprised. He stared at Luli and said, Are you sure you are the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall? The Demon-Slaying Hall was the most powerful force of the human race. There were as many human sovereign realm warriors as there were earth immortal realm warriors. The Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall was the most powerful warrior of the human race. God of Meng knew something about the Demon-Slaying Hall. Yes, Luli nodded, but he didn't tell God of Meng. God of Meng looked at Luli, nodded and said, Let's do as Saint Lord says. Yehu, find a commander of the noble Lord realm to go in as well. At least we can look after each other. The third elder glanced at Yi Shi and did not hesitate for long. He nodded and said, Okay, I will accompany you into the city. Going into the city with Luli, Third Patriarch's mission was to die for Luli. Once something went wrong, Third Patriarch would have to buy some time so that Luli could go first. Third Patriarch knew why he went with Luli, but he didn't hesitate for long. His loyalty to Luli was evident. There's no need. Of course, Luli knew why Third Patriarch wanted to go. He wanted to say no, but Yi Cha said firmly, Saint Lord, if you don't want to take Third Patriarch with you, you can take me. But you must take someone with you. All right, Third Elder will go. Yi Cha was at the later stage of the Noble Lord realm, and Third Patriarch was only at the middle stage of the Noble Lord realm. Moreover, Yi Shi was the leader of the tribe. If something happened to him, how would he explain it to the Cyan Phoenix tribe? After they reached an agreement, Yi Cha and Third Patriarch went out to find a suitable scout to replace Luli. Luli waited in the cave anxiously. God of Meng looked at him and said, Saint Lord, you must be calm. The more urgent the situation is, the calmer you must be. Otherwise, you will be exposed as soon as you enter the city. You will have put Yehu's life in vain. Okay. Luli forced himself to calm down. He sat with his legs crossed and waited for Yi Cha to come back. Kumeng, on the other hand, was calm. He continued to monitor the surroundings. More than half a day later, Yi Cha and Third Patriarch came back, an old man and a middle-aged man. The old man was at the middle stage of the Noble Lord realm, the same realm as Third Patriarch. The middle-aged man was at the initial stage of the Eternal realm. He looked young, and he also had a 5-layered fate wheel. Yi Cha searched the middle-aged man's soul, while Third Patriarch searched the old man's soul. After a while, the middle-aged man collapsed to the ground and died. Yi Cha nodded and said, Saint Lord, this scout is suitable for you. His family is not in the Drifting Cloud City. He has no relatives in the city. You must remember his information. His name is Meng Ji. He is 34 years old. He is in the 6th squad of the 3rd Legion of Scouts. Luli memorized all the information about this scout. He was satisfied. This scout had no relatives in the city, only several friends. They must have been sent out. He was just an average warrior in the Drifting Cloud Hall. Third Patriarch Yi, who searched the scout's soul for a long time. Finally, he opened his eyes after an hour. He said with a frown, This scout's identity is easy to impersonate. He is from one of the families of the Drifting Cloud Hall, a branch of the Tu family. but he is not well-liked in the two family and he has several enemies. I am afraid that he will be sent out again after we go back to the city. He is a leader of the scouts now. He has more than 100 subordinates with him. Those subordinates are troublesome. Luli listened for a while and asked, "Do you want another one?" "We can't." Yicha shook his head and said, "The war is coming. There are fewer scouts on the Cloud Mist Mountain and even fewer noble Lord Realm leaders. This one is fine. Third brother, you disguise yourself. Later, we will go out and gather all the scouts under the scout's command and kill them all." Third patriarch nodded. It would be safer to kill all the subordinates of this leader. Otherwise, they would be seen through. After all, the subordinates were familiar with the leader. Third patriarch sat down with his legs crossed. He digested the information from the impersonating leader and began to disguise himself. Yicha took out some things to help Lu Li. He put on the scout's robe and armor and smeared something on Lu Li's face. After an hour, Yicha stopped, looked at God of Meng and said, "Lord God of Meng, what do you think? Is there anything wrong?" "No," God of Meng said with satisfaction. "The Cyan Phoenix race is really the best scouts. If I didn't use my strong psychic power, I wouldn't be able to tell it was a disguise." Kumeng added, "The Cyan Phoenix race is really good at disguising." Yicha smiled and began to help Third Patriarch with his disguise. Luli could not see his own face. Only when Yicha was helping Third Patriarch did Luli see how Yicha did it. After a while, the third elder changed into a completely different person. He looked exactly like the dead commander. Even if one used their divine perception to investigate, it would be difficult to find any traces of disguise. Luli's confidence was boosted. Yicha and Third Patriarch went out again to gather the subordinates of the leader and kill them all. Third Patriarch had obtained all the information from the Soul Search, so he knew how to gather the subordinates. Luli had to wait patiently. After 10 hours, Yicha and Third Patriarch came back. As soon as Yicha came in, he nodded and said, "It's okay now. You can go to the Drifting Cloud City now. The city has sent out a signal to gather all the scouts. If you don't go back now, you won't be able to in a couple of days. The three forces are coming soon." Yicha thought about it and said, "I will stay on guard at the east of the city. Saint Lord, if anything happens, go to the east of the city and I will come to your rescue." God of Meng stood up and nodded. Now that the Drifting Cloud Hall has gathered all the scouts back, there will be fewer scouts outside the city. Yicha and I will go to the east of the city and set up an illusion. If anything happens, go to the east of the city or crush the Jade Talisman. I will go to the city and come to your rescue. God of Meng handed over a Jade Talisman, which Luli took over with a heavy heart. Chapter 570. The Drifting Cloud City was large, much larger than the cities of the Northern Desert. The Cloud's Plains was dozens of times larger than the Northern Desert. As the main city of the second most powerful force at the Cloud's Plains, the Drifting Cloud City would not be small. Luli followed Yihu. They were wearing black armors of the Drifting Cloud Hall, and they floated toward the eastern gate like ghosts. Both of them had black jade tokens on their waists, the symbol of the Drifting Cloud Hall. The city gate was closed, but the formation was not activated. There were many warriors at the city gate and on the city wall. Luli could sense some noble Lord Realm warriors from the distance. Based on the memory of the team leader, Yihu and Luli knew that the Drifting Cloud Hall had many noble Lord Realm warriors. There were more than 2,000 noble Lord Realm warriors from the internal clan and the external clan, including those from the affiliated forces. There were as many powerful warriors as clouds in the sky. Brother 8 of the two family? When they arrived outside the city, countless divine senses swept over them. Third Elder Yi, whose expression did not change. He continued to move forward with a gloomy expression, but he did slow down. A warrior at the peak of the Noble Lord Realm stuck his head out and asked, "Why did you only bring one person back? Where are your people?" Yihu looked up with an unfriendly expression and said coldly, "Who are you to poke your nose into my affairs?" The warrior at the peak of the Noble Lord Realm snorted and said, "The city gate is not open. Fly up by yourself." Yehu was taken aback for a moment. He turned to Luli behind him, and then they dashed toward the city wall. They kicked on a wall for a few times and leaped up. Ah! As soon as Yehu and Luli went up, many people were surprised. The warrior at the peak of the noble lord realm looked at Yehu with doubt and said, "Brother 8 of the 2 family, why are you so obedient this time? This is not like you." Yehu and Luli were shocked. Would they be exposed as soon as they entered the city? Yehu thought about it and realized he had acted on impulse. Brother 8 of the 2 family was eccentric and had a bad temper. He would have yelled and asked for the city gate to be opened. Yehu was cunning. He said in a sarcastic tone, "I don't want to waste time with you. All the warriors I brought with me are dead. Those bastards from the Hall of Patriarchs are going to pick a fight again. Damn it." While cursing, Yehu walked into the city with a gloomy face. Luli followed him. The people on the city wall looked at each other, and a hint of mockery appeared on their faces. One of them even muttered, "No wonder old 2 is so low-key. So it was because he had messed up. Humph, the few great elders don't like him to begin with. This time, they will probably send him to the suicide squad, right? Ha ha ha." The warrior at the peak of the noble lord realm laughed with sarcasm. Yehu was getting more and more upset, but he and Luli were relieved. They had passed this hurdle. The 2 of them walked into the city quickly. According to Tu Laoba's memory, Yehu found a castle, which was the entrance of the Drifting Cloud Hall Scout Division. There were guards outside the Scout Hall. When they saw Yehu walking over, they bowed slightly, but their expressions were not very respectful. "Commander Tuesday," Yehu squinted at Luli and said in a muffled voice, "Go back and wait for my orders." "Yes." The man Luli was pretending to be was a subordinate of Tu Laoba. He had a yard in the city. Luli left quickly and walked toward a yard according to the information Yicha gave him. The Drifting Cloud City was under martial law. There were no more pedestrians. Soldiers were patrolling everywhere. Only disciples of some families were allowed to ride in carriages, but they would be inspected frequently. Luli had a token, and he was wearing the scout armor. He was inspected twice, and nothing was wrong. Luli found the yard where the fake Meng Ji lived. The yard was remote and run down. There was no one in the yard. Luli couldn't even afford a servant. The man Luli was pretending to be had spent all his resources on mystical materials. He was a gambler and poor. This was even better. If there were servants, Luli would have to find a way to control them. He went into the yard and found it messy and smelly. But he had to sit down. He began to sort out the information Yicha gave him. Remembering that this man was a gambling addict, Luli had an idea. He sat in the yard with his legs crossed and waited quietly. It was getting dark when third patriarch Yi, who suddenly came in. He still had lingering fear on his face. He exclaimed, "Something almost went wrong." This Tu Laoba offended 2 patriarchs of the 2 family. The more than 100 men I took with me were all killed. The higher-ups wanted to hold me accountable and lock me up. Then the master of the Hall of Scouts said that the war is about to begin and I should redeem myself with merit. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. Okay, Luli felt lucky. If he were locked up, Yi would have been killed. Fighting back would only lead to death as well. Luli asked after a pause, "Have they assigned you anything for now?" "No." Yehu shook his head and said, "The war is about to begin. Regular scouts are of no use. Staying outside will only lead to death. So, apart from the best scout teams, the others have nothing to do. We are waiting for orders. Maybe we will be sent to the battlefield." "That's good. We still have a few days." Luli said, "You should be living in the 2 family compound, right? Find a way to find out where the saintess lives. If there's a chance, meet her. If not, don't take the risk. I will go to the casino at night. Meng Ji is a gambling addict. There are crooks and honest folk mixed in there. I will see if I can get some information. Let's meet in this yard once a day." "Sure." Yehu nodded and said, "I cannot stay here for too long. I will go back now. Saint Lord, be careful. If things go wrong, crush the jade talisman to summon me." Yehu left. Luli continued to sit with his legs crossed. He even ate some food. When it was completely dark, he tidied himself up and went out. The city was busier at night. There were not many pedestrians, but there were more carriages and chariots. The army was bearing down on the city. The atmosphere in the city was depressing. At night, many people might not be able to breathe, so they came out to relieve the pressure. Luli walked to a street which was famous in the drifting cloud city. This was a place of prostitution. There were dozens of brothels and many casinos and taverns. This place was even livelier. Warriors were in a precarious situation. They could die at any moment. The closer the war was, the more people would come out to indulge themselves. No matter how many Shin crystals they had, they would belong to others when they were killed. They might as well squander them. Luli ignored the girls waving their red sleeves in the brothels and went directly to the biggest casino. According to Meng Ji's memory, he had been to this casino several times. Every time, he could only gamble a little. "Honorable guest, this way, please." There was an old servant outside to welcome guests. Luli was just an average warrior, but he was at the eternal realm after all. The old servant welcomed him in with politeness. Walking past a side chamber and a corridor, Luli entered a hall with a radius of at least 2 miles. It was quite magnificent. There were many people here as well. Most of them were armored warriors. Luli glanced over and noticed that most of them were at the Eternal Realm. There were some at the Fate Wheel Realm and 2 at the Noble Lord Realm. It was noisy inside. There were all kinds of curses, laughter, and shouts. It was a foul atmosphere. They were gathered around dozens of tables. Nobody paid any attention to Luli. "Honorable guest, this is for dice, this is for jade, this is for... Please help yourself. If you need anything, you can come to me at any time." The old servant left after a brief introduction. Luli wandered around randomly, looking here and there. After a while, he understood some basic rules of gambling. He put thousands of Shin crystals on a random table, cursed, and walked away after he lost. Then, he continued to wander around. He had been listening carefully to see if there were any clues. "Have you heard? There is a beautiful lady in the VIP room who is gambling. She is betting 10 million Shin crystals. Too bad we don't have enough Shin crystals to go in. Otherwise, we could go in and have a look." Chapter 571. Which family is she from? Many people were curious upon hearing the name of the beautiful young lady. They stopped their bets and gathered around. Seeing so many people gathering around, that man said proudly, "She is Lady 7 of the 2 family. She bet tens of millions of Shin crystals without batting an eyelid. She is so rich. Tens of millions." Many people exclaimed. It was not that many people didn't have tens of millions of Shin crystals. But if they were unlucky, they could lose more than 1 billion Shin crystals in one night. For warriors of the Eternal Realm, more than 1 billion Shin crystals was a large number. So it is her. No wonder. Some warriors put on a lascivious smile. One of them said with excitement, "I heard that Lady 7 likes young and handsome men. She will pay tens of millions of Shin crystals for a night. TSK. Lady 7 is so pretty. If she likes me, I will let her play with me for free." "Huh. Gee, you are so pretty and you want Lady 7 to like you? You are out of your league. Poor Lady 7. She is married to that good-for-nothing of a Yu family. How can she stand the loneliness? Also, she is suffering at the Yu family. No wonder she is here. I have met Lady 7 once. She is so pretty, like a fairy." After listening for a while, Luli began to understand. The Drifting Cloud Hall was made up of 2 families, the 2 family and the Yu family. There would be internal competition between the 2 families. The most powerful warrior of the 2 families would be promoted. In this way, the most powerful warrior would always be the master of the Drifting Cloud Hall. At the same time, disciples of the 2 families would be motivated to cultivate with all their might. The 2 families would also be connected by marriage to strengthen the relationship between the families. Lady 7 of the 2 family was married to a young master of the Yu family. Unfortunately, the young master could not have sex. He must have been seriously injured and couldn't buy any special mystical materials. Or maybe the young master was not valued. Therefore, Lady 7 would often go out and have fun. She would have some pretty boys to play with. Luli had seen many slutty girls. This Lady 7 was one of his favorites. She was a real young lady of the two family, and she had a chance to meet the saintess. What was Lu Li's purpose in coming to the city? He just wanted to meet the saintess. Things would be easier after he was sure it was her. If he could settle this seventh young lady, he might be able to see the saintess. Lu Li listened for a while, and then left quietly. He found the old slave and came straight to the point. I want to play in the VIP room. This place is too small. The old servant looked at Lu Li with doubt and said, Sir, the VIP room requires at least 100 million Xian crystals. If you can take out 100 million Xian crystals, I can ask directly. For Lu Li, 100 million Xian crystals was a piece of cake. However, he put on a sneaky expression and said in a low voice, I have made some money from the dead. I do have 100 million Xian crystals. The war is about to break out, and there's no point in keeping it. Help me keep this a secret. I understand. The old servant took the hint. Lu Li handed over an interspatial ring secretly. The old servant checked with psychic power and became more respectful. He showed Lu Li to a side chamber and said to his steward, Chief Steward Li, this honored guest wants to go to the VIP room. Xian crystals are not a problem. Sure. Chief Steward Li smiled when he heard that Lu Li had Xian crystals. But when he saw Lu Li was wearing the standard armor of the Drifting Cloud Hall, he paused and said, Honorable guest, please change into a regular robe. After all, you know what I mean. The fact that an average warrior of the Drifting Cloud Hall brought a huge amount of Xian crystals to gamble would not reflect well on Lu Li. Lu Li nodded and said, Show me the way. I will go get changed. In a small room, Lu Li changed into a brocade robe. Even though Meng Ji was not the most handsome, his looks were okay. What was more, Lu Li had a good temperament. Lu Li had been through a lot. His eyes were clear, and they were filled with awe-inspiring light. The old servant showed Lu Li to a luxurious side chamber, which was much smaller. There were only 10 big round tables. Some young masters and young ladies in fancy robes, and some old men of the noble lord realm were gambling. Lu Li's attention was immediately attracted by a stunning lady sitting at the innermost round table. She was not very old, probably around 20 years old. She was wearing a long black dress, with green gems on her earlobes and a pink tassel on her forehead. She looked gorgeous. The young lady had a good figure. Lu Li could see her side profile from where he stood. She had a slim waist and well-developed breasts. Her face was like a jade plate, and her nose was small and delicate. In terms of looks, she could be compared with Jiang Qiling. She was pretty. There were 2 young masters standing next to the young lady. Both of them were good-looking. However, they had oily hair and powdered faces, which made them look like pretty boys. They were trying to please Lu Li, which made them look less elegant. Lu Li walked around quietly and bet tens of thousands of Xian crystals on 2 tables. He won one and went to the big round table where Lady 7 was at. This round table was a game of dice. The dealer was the casino, and the others were the gamblers. There were big and small bets and the number of points. The odds were different. Clearly, the dice cup was specially made. Lu Li tried several times with psychic power, but he couldn't get in. Of course, if everyone could get in, the casino wouldn't need to operate. Lu Li didn't go to Lady 7's table. Instead, he went to the opposite side of the table. He didn't even look at Lady 7. He stared at the dice cup, waiting to place his bet. There were more people surrounding this side, but not many people were actually betting. There were only 5 people playing, and most of them were watching Miss 7 throw away her money like crazy. Lady 7 was not holding Xian crystals in her hand, but purple jade chips. Each chip represented 10 million Xian crystals. This was a big game. Of course, it was nothing for Lu Li. Lady 7 was not having good luck tonight. She looked gloomy. She paid no attention to the 2 young masters and a young lady talking. She just watched the others place their bets and open the dice cup. Lady 7 made 3 bets in a row, but all she got were small. She was so angry that she clenched her teeth. Lu Li threw a look to the old man, who was shaking the dice cup. He was calm and composed. Lu Li wondered who was behind the casino. He didn't seem to be afraid of offending Lady 7. The Drifting Cloud Hall was the second most powerful force of the Cloud's plains. Only the most powerful force the Palace of Sun, or the forces of the Central Plains were not afraid of offending the two family of the Drifting Cloud Hall. The forces of the Central Plains had an agreement that they could not invade the other 8 plains, but it was okay to do business in secret. For example, the Dew family had opened the heaven-punishing auction house at the Northern Desert. As long as they didn't interfere in the disputes of the Cloud's Plains, it was normal for them to have some businesses here. Luli made his move after a few more rounds. He asked someone in the VIP lounge for chips of 100 million Xian crystals. He threw out 50 million Xian crystals on the dice of 6. What? Lu Li's move startled everyone. Even Lady 7 turned to look at him. It was not that the person in the bet could not afford 50 million Xian crystals, but would be much more difficult to bet on 1 point. If the dice were to be 6, the casino would have to pay 300 million Xian crystals. Luli remained calm. He didn't even look at Lady 7. He turned to the steward and said, "Open." The steward didn't change his expression. He just gave Luli a meaningful look. He glanced to the others at the table and said, "Is there anyone else? If not, open it." This time, nobody made a bet. They all stared at the dice cup. Luli was calmer. He picked up his tea without looking at the dice cup. The steward opened the dice cup, and it was really 6. Everyone around the table was in an uproar. Lady 7 looked at Luli. Seeing him drinking tea leisurely, he seemed to be quite mysterious. The steward asked someone to pay for the Xian crystals. He shook the dice cup again. Putting it down, he said, "Okay, you can place your bets now." Luli put down the teacup and said calmly, "Keep betting on 6, 100 million. Another uproar. Lady 7's eyes glowed. She said, "I will bet with him. I will bet 20 million on 6. Nobody else dared to place their bets. The steward asked around and opened the dice cup again. It was 6 again. Chapter 572. When it was 6, everyone at the table looked at Lu Li in a different light. Lu Li also noticed several streaks of psychic power coming over, but they disappeared soon. Lady 7 was even more surprised. She noticed that Lu Li still wasn't looking at her. She stood up, walked over to Lu Li, and asked with a smile, "What is your name? Why haven't I seen you before?" "I am Tu Chi." Lu Li finally looked at Lady 7. He nodded and said, "Nice to meet you, Lady 7. I am just an average warrior of the external clan. I won't tell you my name. The war is coming soon. I might be sent out to die tomorrow." "Oh." Lady 7 was surprised. It was not because of Lu Li's identity or his courage to make such a bet. It was because of Lu Li's demeanor. A warrior didn't stand up to salute her, and he was neither humble nor arrogant. He was so calm. Looking at Lu Li's clear eyes, his dark skin, and his confidence and calmness, Lady 7 suddenly found Lu Li more pleasing to the eye than the 2 pretty boys. Each eye had changed Lu Li's looks. He looked to be in his 30s. This kind of uncle was more intimidating. Being used to eating meat and fish, Lu Li's appearance was more appealing. The most important thing was Lu Li's temperament. He rose from the grassroots with the wildness of a grassroots warrior. Then, he became the emperor of the Northern Desert and had the bearing of a superior. He had been through so many things over the years that he had become a bit weathered. The combination of these qualities made Lu Li more charming. Lu Li looked away after one look at Lady 7. He stared at the dice cup again, as if he was not interested in Lady 7 at all. He had been in contact with Madame Yin for a long time. Jiang Qiling used to be a slut as well. Therefore, he had a way of dealing with slutty women. Playing hard to get. This was a trick that worked every time. The colder you were to her, the more interested she would be in you. Sluts had played with too many men. Men that were easy to handle could no longer be of interest to them. Lady 7 pretended to be reserved. She looked at the dice cup and asked, "What do you want this time?" Lu Li turned to the steward and said with a smile, "Big one, I think." Hiss, hiss, Lu Li bet another 100 million, which caused many people nearby to exclaim. Many people at the nearby gambling tables were attracted over. Miss 7 thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll follow you and bet 50 million. The rest of the gamblers at the table simply stopped gambling and watched the 2 of them gamble. After the steward confirmed that no one was betting, he opened the dice cup. The result was really 4, and it was big again. Luli had earned 1 billion Xian crystals after winning 3 rounds in a row. If Luli were just an average warrior of the Eternal Realm, he would be trembling with excitement. Luli, on the other hand, was drinking his tea as if nothing had happened. His leisurely look surprised many people. If Luli was just an average warrior of the Eternal Realm, how could he be so calm? The steward couldn't control the situation any longer. He glanced at one of the maids, and the maid quietly retreated. Soon, a white-bearded old man walked out and took over the steward's position. In his hand was a white jade dice cup. It was obvious. The casino suspected that Luli had cheated, but they couldn't find any evidence of Luli cheating. As such, they could only replace him with a higher-grade dice cup. Hee. Lady 7 suddenly smiled and said, "You are good. You have forced Master Zhou of the casino to come out." The white-bearded old man added with a smile, "Lady 7, you are here. Another guest is here. It would be rude of me not to come out and keep him company." Luli and Whitebeard looked at each other. They were surprised. This old man was powerful. Not only was he at the peak of the noble lord realm, his soul was strong as well. That was right. Luli had cheated just now, but he didn't check the dice cup. That was something that even Luli could not see with his psychic power. If he did, he would attract the attention of the casino. By then, he would be accused of cheating, and the consequences would be dire. Luli's way of cheating was simple. He would secretly check the soul of the steward. He didn't do it directly, but only since the fluctuation of his soul. Lady 7 had bet on small many times. This time, the steward was going to win for him. Luli was lucky and won. The second time, the steward's soul fluctuation was strong. Luli guessed that the steward was trying to get back at him, so he bet on 6 again. Outsiders could not cheat in the casino, but people in the casino must have ways to do so. Luli had always believed this. Otherwise, how could the casino make money? How did so many people lose all their fortunes? Now, it was Master Zhou who had such a strong soul. Luli didn't dare to check, or he would be sensed by Master Zhou. What? When Master Zhou put down the dice cup, Lady 7 looked at Luli with excitement. Luli frowned, but said nothing. After a while, he shook his head, looked at Lady 7 and said, "I don't feel anything this time." "Lady 7, what do you think?" Lady 7 was disappointed. She thought about it and casually said, "I think 3. Okay, I believe you." Luli stood up with a smile. Then he placed all his chips on 3, which stunned everyone present. Luli traded for chips of 100 million Xian crystals and won several times in a row. His chips added up to more than 1 billion, which was almost all the savings of a small family. He, a mere imperishable realm martial practitioner, had actually placed a bet of 1 billion, and he had even casually placed it under Miss 7's orders. Lady 7 was panicking. She was short of breath because she didn't feel anything. She just gave a random number. She didn't expect that Luli would bet all of it. Lady 7 was a young lady of the immediate 2 family, but her identity was not honorable enough. Otherwise, she wouldn't have married a young master who was inhumane. Therefore, her net worth was not high. Even though several billion Xian crystals were nothing to her, she wouldn't be willing to bet 1 billion at once. She grabbed Luli's hands and said, "Don't be so impulsive. I just said it casually." Seeing that Lady 7 was grabbing his hands, Luli knew he had made it tonight. He didn't care about winning or losing. What he cared about was Lady 7. He turned around and said with a smile, "Ha ha, a nobody like me might die in a fight tomorrow. It is useless to keep the Xian crystals. Instead, they will be taken advantage of by our enemies. So, I have come here to play. If I can win, I will give all my Xian crystals to Lady 7. If I lose, it doesn't matter. If I can't survive after the fight, Lady 7, just buy me a drink. Go ahead." Luli's heroic words and his hearty smile dazzled Lady 7. She didn't even let go of Luli's hands. She looked at the dice cup nervously. Luli said he would give all his Xian crystals to her if he could win. That was 6 billion Xian crystals, not a small amount for Lady 7. Everyone held their breaths. Master Zhou opened the dice cup slowly. Everyone's eyes dimmed down. The result was 5 points. Luli had lost. He had lost all his Xian crystals. Ha ha ha. Luli patted the back of Lady 7's hand and said with a carefree smile, I think we are not lucky enough. Lady 7, I have lost everything. I will go back to bed now. If I can survive after the fight, remember to buy me a drink. Ha ha ha. Luli left with a laugh. His heroic bearing and steady footsteps moved many people. Perhaps no one here was as carefree and uninhibited as him. Wait. When Luli was about to leave, Lady 7 finally came to her senses. She shouted, You have risked your life for the two family. I should buy you a drink. We don't have to wait until after the fight. Let's do it tonight. Think of it as me seeing you off. Sure. Thank you, Lady 7. It just so happens that I have run out of Xian crystals to buy the drink. Luli stopped, turned back, and smiled. The fish had taken a bait. The 100 million Xian crystals was well spent. Looking at the glow in Lady 7's eyes and her blushing face, Luli realized he seemed to be the bane of sluts. P.S. For small gains. I will make up for it when I am better. Chapter 573. The drinking place was in the casino. It was a relatively elegant loft. After all, Lady 7 was a young lady of the immediate 2 family, and she often came to the casino. It was not difficult for her to get a private room. There were large windows on 3 sides of the room with pink gauze hanging on them. The gauze was fluttering in the breeze, and the red candles were flickering. As soon as Luli went in, he sensed something romantic. He noticed there was a passage in the room that led to a room. This must be a place for big shots to meet in private. 2 maids knelt on the ground, pouring wine for Luli and Lady 7. Lady 7 had a female companion, and 2 young masters as well. But she didn't bring them with her. She only had a maid with her. Please sit down. Lady 7 pointed to a golden table opposite them. Luli walked over in strides and sat on a cattail hassock without any reservations. Lady 7 walked to the golden table, and the 2 maids on their knees poured wine for them. Lady 7 sat down, looked at Luli with a smile, and asked, Now, can you tell me your name? Ha ha. Luli laughed and said, A name is just a code. No matter how nice a name is not as interesting as a person, isn't it? You and I have only met by chance. Who knows, after tonight, we might never meet again. Why should we be so fixated on this? Lady 7, if you must, you can call me Wu Ming. Ha, ha, the 7th young lady smiled sweetly and playfully said, You are indeed an interesting and wonderful person. I have a question. Theoretically speaking, a wonderful person like you should be famous. The Drifting Cloud Hall is not a large place. How come I have never heard of you? Luli's temperament was unusual. Tonight, he gambled 1 billion Xian crystals and lost. But he still left with a smile on his face. Luli's character could be seen from this. People with this kind of temperament and character were often like a dazzling star in the night, and no matter where they went, they couldn't hide their brilliance. Luli's realm was not high, but as far as Lady 7 was concerned, she could not ignore him after meeting him once. If Luli was from the 2 family, then why had she never heard of him? Therefore, she was confused. Luli remained calm, but he was on guard. After all, Lady 7 was from a big family, and she had seen too many things. If she were to discover the problem, he would have come here for nothing and would be in big trouble. He thought about it and came up with a plan in his mind. He picked up a glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. A trace of loneliness appeared on his face as he looked out of the window and said, There are some things I don't want to say. You can understand it this way. I was very depressed for a few years. I was addicted to alcohol and gambling. I was drunk all day. Who would care about me? Looking at Luli's gloomy face, Lady 7 felt embarrassed. It seemed that she had reopened Luli's scars. Luli must have encountered something in the past few years, so he had been depressed for a few years. How could a drunkard and gambler become famous and outstanding? Sorry, looking at the sadness in Luli's eyes and the determination on his face, Lady 7 picked up a goblet of wine and said, I am being rude. I will punish myself with a goblet. After drinking a cup of wine, 2 red clouds immediately appeared on Miss Seven's face, and she became even more charming. She waved her maids away and poured herself another goblet. She raised her goblet again and said, "Nameless hero here. Here's to you. You are a man of taste." Luli poured a goblet in response. He stared at Lady Seven and said, "Lady Seven, you are a woman with a story. A woman like you is very tasty." Being stared at by Luli, Lady Seven felt as if her heart was being seen through. She had become a transparent person with no secrets. Her heart was beating faster. She had the feeling that when she was a young girl seeing the man of her dreams, Luli had some knowledge about sluts. There were 2 kinds of sluts. One was born to be dissolute and liked to have sex. The other kind was actually a wounded and pitiful woman who was hurt by the world or love. These kind of women could not accept reality. They would choose to give up and numb themselves so that their lives would not be so painful. There was no doubt that Jiang Qiling and Lady Seven belonged to the latter. Luli had been with Jiang Qiling for a long time. He knew how to deal with women like her. After a few goblets of wine, Lady Seven felt weak. Her eyes were misty and her body was burning. She was in the mood of love. If Luli were to stand up and tease her, she would show the most slutty side of a woman. Naturally, Luli would not continue to flirt with Lady Seven. He was here for a reason, not to play with women. Therefore, he put down his goblet and said with melancholy, "The drifting cloud hall is at a disadvantage in the fight against the 3 forces. It doesn't matter if some warriors die. We are supported by the drifting cloud hall. We should die for the drifting cloud hall. But once we lose, the people of the drifting cloud hall will be plunged into misery and suffering. The 2 family and the U family will have no place at the Clouds Plains." "Ha." Lady Seven said carelessly, "Life and death are decreed by fate. Who can stop that grandpa of mine from courting death? He offended the 3 forces and the Palace of Sunday. If he loses, so be it. The worst that can happen is death. Living like this is pointless." Luli was delighted. He had said this to get more information. Now that Lady Seven had opened her mouth, he would not give up. He looked at Lady Seven with glowing eyes and said, "Lady Seven, you are smart. Even if you don't pay attention to many things, you can figure out easily. What do you think are our chances of winning this fight?" "Chances?" Lady Seven sneered and said, "Ever since Grandpa fell for that woman's trick, the drifting cloud hall is doomed to be destroyed. That woman is so vicious. She will only bring endless disasters to the drifting cloud hall. Look, it is coming, isn't it?" "Woman?" Luli trembled. His eyes glowed. He tried to calm down his breathing and asked in a calm tone, "Lady Seven, are you talking about Saintess? Who else can it be?" Lady Seven picked up her goblet, gulped it down, and said with a cold smile, "This Saintess that popped out of nowhere. After she came to the drifting cloud hall, a bunch of old guys are bewitched. They all believe in her. How many stupid things has the drifting cloud hall done over the years? This time, they have brought disaster upon themselves. I have told Grandpa more than a year ago that this woman is poison and she will get us killed. But they won't listen. This war could have been avoided. As long as we gave in to the Palace of Sun, the Palace of Sun would intervene. As soon as the Palace of Sun gave the order, the 3 forces retreated. Later, we just have to find a way to drive a wedge between the 3 forces and we can get our revenge. It just so happens that the Saintess insists on fighting to the end. She won't give in. The old guys trust her. She's trying to get us all killed." "What?" Lu Li's mind was in turmoil. He had long suspected that this Saintess was Lu Ling. He didn't expect Lu Ling to be so capable. She was beyond his expectation. He had thought that Lu Ling enjoyed a high status at the Drifting Cloud Hall. How could the old guys trust her so much? Chapter 574. With that said, Luli strode out as if he was going to fight the Saintess to the death. Lady Seven was tipsy. She only came back to her senses when Luli was about to leave. She shouted, "Come back. Do you want to die? The Saintess has reached the noble lord realm. You will only be courting death. Looking at Lady 7 coldly, Luli said, "A man must die with an indomitable spirit. A real man must do what he knows is impossible. Lady 7, sit here. If I can get the head of the Saintess, I will drink with you. If I die, next year on this day, please pour a goblet of yellow wine for me." Luli's performance was beautiful. Lady 7's eyes were filled with fascination. Luli's manly attitude was completely different from the good-for-nothing she had met before. She felt all the men she used to play with were scum. This was a real man, one with an indomitable spirit. "Come back," she shouted again, shook her head, and said, "You cannot even get into the front hall, not to mention the back hall where the Saintess lives. Don't be silly. Even if you can get into the Saintess's room, you cannot kill her." "Ha ha." Luli turned around and smiled. His face was full of confidence and pride. Suddenly, his hand glowed as he released his blood claw. A surge of cold air came out from his claw, which sobered Lady 7 up. Luli said coldly, "This is an ancient skill that I have cultivated. Even average warriors at the peak of the noble lord realm will die if I can sneak up on them. As long as I can kill the Saintess, Grand Master, and the others will come to their senses. Palace of Sun will be appeased, and the three forces will be saved." Buzzing, Lady 7's eyes glowed. She thought it made sense. As far as she could tell, the old guys of the Drifting Cloud Hall were bewitched by the Saintess. If the Saintess died, those old guys would come to their senses. By then, they would surrender to the Palace of Sun, and the three forces would leave at once. Luli's hand glowed, and the blood claw disappeared. He said with a frown, "The problem is that I cannot get into the back hall, and I cannot get close to the Saintess. Forget it. I don't care so much. Man proposes, God disposes. I'm going." Lady 7's eyes flickered. When Luli walked out, a glint of determination rose in her eyes. She mobilized Xian energy and flew out. She caught up with Luli and said, "Wait for me. I will go with you." "No." Luli was taken aback. He grabbed Lady 7's shoulders and said, "Lady 7, you are an honorable person. You are of noble birth. How can you risk your life? If you get hurt in any way, I won't be able to forgive you even if I died 10,000 times." Hee hee. The 7th young lady smiled indifferently and said, "My combat strength is inferior to yours, and I don't have the guts to assassinate the Holy Maiden. But I can bring you to the back hall. Even if something happens, the Drifting Cloud Hall will not do anything to me, as I am the young mistress of the two clan. Without me, you won't be able to enter the rear hall." Luli was hesitating. Then he made up his mind and said, "Okay, just bring Lady 7 to the back hall and leave the rest to me. I'll take full responsibility for everything that happens. If anyone comes looking for trouble with you, just say that I kidnapped you. Let's go." Lady 7 said nothing. She led Luli out of the casino and boarded a luxurious carriage. Luli wanted to sit on the shaft, but Lady 7 dragged him directly into the carriage. The carriage was not spacious, but it was luxuriously decorated. There was a couch in the carriage. Lady 7 sat on the couch with Luli. When the carriage started to move, Lady 7 put her arms around Luli's waist and put her face on his chest. She trembled and said, "This is still too dangerous. Even if you can kill the Holy Maiden, you will still die in the end. I don't want you to die." "Not necessarily." Luli smiled confidently and said, "After I kill the Holy Maiden, I will turn myself in and tell the Grand Master how bad I am. Maybe I will be spared and I can make up for my crime." "Okay." Lady 7 nodded. She looked up at Luli and said, "Don't worry. I will find someone to plead for you. As long as you're still alive, I can get you out after some time, even if you're put on death row." "Thank you, Lady 7. Luli put his arms around Lady 7. He felt guilty. After all, he had used Lady 7. He had no other choice. The war was about to break out. What if the Holy Maiden was killed by the three forces? He must ascertain the identity of the Holy Maiden as soon as possible and then figure out a way to escape. With Lu Ling, Lady 7 looked at the determined lines on Luli's face and his sparkling eyes. Suddenly, she was moved. She raised her head, closed her eyes, and said softly, "Kiss me." Luli was surprised and embarrassed. He actually had some resistance to sluts. Influenced by Lu Ling, he was more conservative when it came to relationships between men and women. Otherwise, he would have done a long time ago when Madame Yin flirted with him. Looking at the charming face in front of him and her red lips, Lu Li hesitated for a moment. Eventually, he kissed her lips, trying to be casual in case he messed up. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to part his lips, Lady Seven put her arms around his neck and kissed him passionately. A ** also came in and tangled with his tongue. Luli had had 2 experiences of making love, but he was not in a clear state of mind. He was unfamiliar with this. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. He let Lady Seven invade him and responded clumsily out of instinct. His mind was in a mess. He wanted to push Lady Seven away, but he was afraid of angering her. Lady Seven had drunk some wine. She was aroused. She had been kissing Luli like crazy. One of her hands was stroking Lu Li's strong chest. Seeing that Lu Li's hands were well-behaved, she even grabbed Lu Li's hand and pressed it to her chest. Gradually, Lu Li was aroused as well. It would be a waste if he didn't touch her. He might as well grope her everywhere. Lady Seven was aroused. She started to kiss Lu Li's neck, which made him unable to control himself. "Stop!" A cold shout came from a front. The carriage stopped. Lu Li came back to his senses. He took the chance to push Lady Seven away and said, "Someone is here." A glint of anger rose in Lady Seven's eyes. Just now, she was aroused, and all she wanted was to make love to Lu Li on the carriage. A man like Lu Li was hard to come by. She was afraid that Lu Li would die in battle and regret it for the rest of his life. She tidied up her dress and opened the curtain. It was a group of warriors. She took out her whip at once and cracked it on the face of the team leader. She shouted coldly, "Are you blind? Don't you know this is my carriage?" The team leader's face was bleeding, but he didn't get angry. He even smiled apologetically and said, "Lady Seven, please forgive us. This is an order from our patriarch. We're just following orders. Please forgive us, Lady Seven. Let's go." Lady Seven didn't even look at the team leader. She shouted to the coachman and went back to the carriage. Seeing that Lady Seven was in a rage, Lu Li comforted her. "Lady Seven, don't blame our brothers. They are in a difficult position. We have a long way to go. As long as I can make it out alive, we will have time to be intimate in the future." "Okay," Lady Seven nodded. Her eyes flickered as she began to think about how to absolve Lu Li. Lu Li said nothing as well. The carriage moved on quickly. After an hour, it stopped at the gate of a grand hall. Chapter 575. The Drifting Cloud Hall was made up of 2 big families and several small families. The hall masters and patriarchs were all from the 2 big families. The powerful ones would be promoted and the weak would be demoted. Such a system could ensure that the power of the Drifting Cloud Hall would always be in the hands of the powerful and capable. The Drifting Cloud Hall wouldn't be destroyed because of a useless hall master. The Drifting Cloud Hall was divided into 3 areas: the front, the middle, and the back. These were the residences of the higher-ups of the Drifting Cloud Hall. Disciples of the immediate family like Lady Seven lived in their own families, and they were not qualified to live here. Lady Seven walked down with Lu Li. She asked Lu Li to follow her as her escort. There were guards outside the front hall, and all of them were at the Eternal Realm. Lady Seven was a celebrity at the Drifting Cloud City. She was a notorious slut in the city, so the guards outside knew her. Of course, knowing her didn't mean that they could let her in. 2 guards stopped her. Lady Seven took out a whip and shouted coldly, "Piss off, Lady Seven, I am sorry." One of the guards cupped his fists and said, "Patriarch 4 has ordered that no one is allowed in unless it is important. I am an average person. Are you blind?" Lady Seven was furious. She swung her whip and was about to hit the guards. But the 2 guards didn't step back. They stood there with their teeth clenched. Lu Li winked at Lady Seven. Lady Seven put away her whip and said, "I have something to discuss with Patriarch 4. I am here with an elite of the Hall of Scouts. He has found some information, but it is not convenient for him to report it to the Hall Master of the Hall of Scouts. Therefore, he has come to see Patriarch 4 in the middle of the night. This is an important matter. If you delay the information, you will have to bear the consequences. Luli handed over his token. The two guards checked and made sure that it was from the Hall of Scouts. They looked at each other and made way for Lady Seven. Lady Seven was known for her bad temper at the Drifting Cloud City. If they didn't let her in and she made a scene, not only Lady Seven would be punished, but the two guards would also be punished. The master of the Drifting Cloud Hall was Lady Seven's grandpa, and he was in the back hall. The two guards believed that Lady Seven wouldn't dare to act recklessly even if she went in. Lady Seven showed Luli in with her head held high. They went through the front hall and the middle hall directly to the back hall. On the way, they encountered many patrolling soldiers. Most of them recognized Seventh Young Mistress and did not stop her. Luli didn't dare to use psychic power to check the surroundings. That being said, he could clearly tell that there were at least more than a dozen hidden scouts in the distance from the front hall to the back hall. They had used psychic power to check on him. There must be more at the back hall. Do you see that castle? That's where the Saintess lives. Lady Seven said to Luli in a low voice as she looked to a towering palace on the left. Then he said, "The Saintess and I have always been at odds, so if we go in, it will arouse the suspicion of many people. I will bring you somewhere nearby, and the rest will depend on you. Remember, it doesn't matter if you succeed or not. As soon as you're surrounded, kneel down and plead guilty. Don't resist, and those soldiers won't kill you. As long as the Hall of Beheadings and Executions doesn't sentence you to death, everything else will be fine." Luli nodded slightly. There was no expression on his face, but he was nervous on the inside. His heart was in his throat. The Saintess was in the front hall. It was crucial that he could sneak into the hall and see the Saintess. If he didn't have the chance to see the Saintess and alarm the hidden scouts nearby, he would be taken down right away. By then, it would be troublesome. He might even die here. Lady Seven led Luli toward the palace. Luli secretly sensed that there were at least 7 or 8 hidden scouts nearby, and at least 2 of them were at the Noble Lord realm. He was trying to come up with a solution. Lady Seven slowed down. When she passed by the palace of the Saintess, she looked back at Luli. Then, she sped up and walked on by herself. Soon, she disappeared into a small path. Luli stood in front of the palace of the Saintess. After the time for 2 breaths, he felt more than a dozen psychic powers locked onto him. Luli had thought of some ways, but none of them worked when he was locked onto by the psychic powers. He knew he could not stand here for too long, or he would be taken down. Therefore, he made up his mind, dropped to one knee, and said, "I am Meng Ji from the Hall of Scouts. I have something important to report to the Saintess. Please grant me an audience." Whoosh, a gentle breeze came. Then a figure moved. A warrior was standing next to Luli with a saber on Luli's neck. A cold voice came. "How dare you? Do you want to die? How dare you disturb the Saintess so late at night?" The rules of the big clans were very strict. Not everyone could meet the big shots. Usually, those who dared to disturb important figures would be punished. Whether or not Luli had a special reason, he had to take him down first. Luli remained calm. He had no intention to fight back, even though he was only a warrior at the peak of the Eternal Realm, and Luli could kill him easily. Luli made up his mind and continued, "I have something important to report. There is a mole in the Drifting Cloud Hall. Therefore, I have to offend the Saintess late at night. After I report this, I will have no regrets, even if the Saintess wants to kill me or punish me." A mole? The one who took Luli down was hesitating. If there really was a mole, it was reasonable for Luli to report to the Saintess. Also, once there was a mole in the Drifting Cloud Hall, it would affect the upcoming war. Luli saw that the man was hesitating. He was afraid that someone more important would come and listen to his report directly, which would prevent him from meeting the Saintess. He made up his mind and shouted, "Saintess, I really do have something important to report. If I am lying, you can kill me right here and now. How dare you?" Luli raised his voice, which was quite abrupt in the dark. Normally, even if he wanted to meet the Saintess, he would have to wait for the Saintess's order. Lu Li's shouting was very unruly. He had angered the warrior who took him down. The warrior swung his saber, trying to kill Lu Li first. "Stop! Saintess, let him in." The door of the palace where the Saintess lived was opened. An old maid walked out and said with a straight face. She looked at Lu Li and said coldly, "You better not lie to us. Otherwise, you will not be able to leave here tonight." "How dare I lie to the Saintess?" Lu Li got up with trepidation and walked inside with respect. The warrior who took him down followed him with a saber in his hand. If Lu Li were to misbehave, he would be killed right away. Phew, phew. Lu Li's breaths were short. Finally, he was going to meet the Saintess. As long as he was sure that it was Lu Ling, the sister and the brother would recognize each other. Lu Ling would be smart enough to protect him. Then, they could have a secret discussion. It would be easy for them to escape. Inside the hall, the old maid showed Lu Li to a side chamber. There were candles in the side chamber, which was quite bright. However, the inside was separated by a curtain. Through the curtain, Lu Li could faintly see a slim figure sitting inside. The old maid looked at Lu Li, who understood. He dropped to one knee and said, "Greetings, Saintess. I am Meng Ji from the Scout Hall." Nothing came from behind the curtain. After a while, a cold voice came out. "Get up. Tell me what you want." Boom! Lu Li felt as if he had been struck by lightning on a clear day. He trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. He almost couldn't hold them back. Chapter 576. Ever since Lu Li was born, he had never seen his parents. He had seen his father's portrait once, but he didn't even know what his mother looked like. He was brought up by Lu Ling. She raised him, taught him how to read and how to behave. For 15 years, they depended on each other. For Lu Li, Lu Ling was his everything. She was the closest person to him. Not even Lu Ren Huang could compare with her. Lu Ling had suffered a lot since she was a kid. She was almost raped. In order to protect her innocence, she jumped off a cliff and broke her leg. Later, she cut off her thigh and ate it raw to scare off Di Hu and the others. She stayed in the mountains to heal her wounds for several days. Finally, she crawled back to the tribe. Later, in the Wuling County, Lu Ling died together with the Zhao family patriarch in order to save him. She was burned alive. Because she was of Fire Phoenix birth, she was reborn. But she was taken away by Ghost Snake Granny. She was gone for more than 2 years. Lu Li had grown from a 15-year-old boy to more than 17. He was about to turn 18. 2 years was not a long time, but for Lu Li, it felt like several lifetimes had passed. Now that he heard Lu Ling's voice, he could no longer suppress his emotions. He trembled and tears glistened in his eyes. Luckily, he kept his head down. Otherwise, someone would have noticed something was wrong. Even so, the old maid and the scout behind Lu Li still felt something was off. The scout behind Lu Li was on guard. He raised his saber and was ready to cut at any time. Phew, phew, Lu Li took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He tried to keep his voice from trembling and said, "Saintess, this is a serious matter. I want to report to you alone." "How dare you?" A glint of anger flashed in the old maid's eyes. She was filled with killing intent. What was the identity of a Saintess? Lu Li, a mere scout, wanted to be alone with a Saintess? What was he up to? Lu Ling said nothing. After a while, she waved her hand. The old maid waved to the scout. The scout looked at Lu Li and left. He closed the door of the side chamber. Lu Ling's calm and cold voice came again. "Auntie Li is on my side. You can say whatever you want." "Who is the mole?" Lu Li frowned. Lu Ling's tone was too calm and cold. Could it be that she didn't recognize his voice? Otherwise, how could she be so calm? Something's not right. Another question came to Lu Li's mind. Lu Ling was the Saintess of the Drifting Cloud Hall, and she enjoyed a high position. According to Lady Seven, the old guys all trusted her. If so, why hadn't anyone been sent to the northern desert to look for him? Lu Li asked after some hesitation. "Saintess, do you remember the Delong tribe?" Lu Ling said nothing again. The old maid looked at Lu Li with doubt, not understanding what he was talking about. After a while, Lu Ling said, "I don't remember. Is this a tribe from the Clouds Plains? I'm asking you about the spy." Why did you mention the Long tribe? Ugh. Lu Li was startled. He could tell from her tone that she was not faking it. Could it be that Lu Ling had lost her memory, or her soul was reconstructed, or her memory was sealed? Lu Li was even more certain that Lu Ling never went to see him for the past 2 years. Lu Ling must have had her memory sealed or her soul reconstructed. His lips trembled as he asked, "Saintess, do you remember Lu Li?" The old maid was still confused. Clearly, she had never heard of this name. All of a sudden, the Saintess stood up. She lifted the curtain, looked at Lu Li with doubt, and said, "This name, I find it familiar, but I cannot remember him. Who is he?" Lu Ling walked out. Her face was covered with a black veil. Only her eyes could be seen. When Lu Li saw her eyes, he could not look away. He could not control the tears in his eyes. They ran down and dropped on the white jade floor, making a clear sound. "You!" Lu Ling stared into Lu Li's eyes. Once again, she was surprised. She murmured, "Who are you? How come? I feel you are so familiar, but I cannot remember where I have seen you." Lu Li's tears gushed out like a river. He cried like a child. He looked at Lu Ling in a daze. He could not control his emotions anymore. His lips trembled, and he almost called her sister. But he saw the old maid next to him from the corner of his eyes. He refrained from doing so. He forced a smile and said, "Actually, Saintess and I have known each other for a long time. But I think you have forgotten something. You cannot remember me." Lu Li looked at the old maid, and then at Lu Ling. Lu Ling seemed to understand. She said, "Auntie Li, you can leave now." The old maid looked at Lu Li with doubt. She didn't leave right away. She hesitated and said, "Saintess, this man, leave." Lu Ling glanced over coldly. The old maid dared not to say anything else and left with respect. After Lu Ling and the others left, she glanced over to Lu Li and said, "The Long tribe and that Lu Li you mentioned, I feel they are familiar, but I can't remember. Also, where have we met before? Tell me about it." Lu Li said nothing. He looked at Lu Ling with tears in his eyes and said, "Sister, I am Lu Li. Don't you recognize me?" Lu Li had always been a strong-willed man. He rarely shed tears. But now he could not stop his tears. He tore off the disguise on his face and washed it off with clean water. Then he looked up at Lu Ling again and said, "Sister, I am Lu Li, your brother. What is wrong? How come you don't recognize me, sister?" Lu Ling trembled. Looking at Lu Li's face, there was a glint of pain and struggle in her eyes. She pressed her forehead with one hand and raised the other as if she was trying to caress Lu Li's face, trying to remember Lu Li. Seeing Lu Ling's hand, Lu Li moved over on his knees. He knelt in front of Lu Ling, looked up at her, and said, "Sister, look at me. I am Lu Li, your brother. How come you don't recognize me?" "Brother?" Lu Ling said with uncertainty. Her hand trembled, but she still put her hand on Lu Li's face. She lowered her head and looked at Lu Li carefully. She stroked his face, and the struggle in her eyes was more apparent. After a moment, her body trembled. She felt dizzy, and she was about to fall to the ground. Lu Li quickly held her up. He had some idea that Lu Ling's memory must have been sealed, and she could not remember the past. But even so, he was the closest person to Lu Ling. How could she have no memory at all? She must be trying hard to recall the past. Her soul was trying to break the seal. That was why she was having a headache and feeling dizzy. "Sister, don't worry. Take your time." Chapter 577. Brother. Lu Ling rested for a while and opened her eyes. She stared at Lu Li's face and asked with uncertainty, "Are you really my brother?" Lu Li nodded and said, "Sister, you're Lu Ling and I am Lu Li. Our father is Lu Renwang. We are disciples of the Lu family, the most powerful defensive bloodline at the Central Plains. We were born in the Long tribe of the Heaven Martial Kingdom at the Northern Desert. Take your time. Don't worry. I can tell you many things in detail." Lu Ling frowned. Her eyes were filled with confusion and pain. She murmured to herself, "My name is Lu Ling. Lu Renwang, the Northern Desert, the Lu family, the Long tribe, they all sound familiar to me. But why can't I remember them? Could it be that my memory was really sealed? The more she thought about it, the more pain she felt. She put her hand on her forehead and rubbed her temple with her ring finger. Luli stopped after a while. He was afraid that something might happen to her soul, so he didn't say too much. Now, he had given her a lot of inspiration. She could think back slowly and unlock the seal on her memory. Lu Ling suddenly closed her eyes, shook her head in pain, and said, I can't think about it anymore. I can't or my head will explode. Seeing that she was about to fall, Luli stood up and helped her up. He helped her into the inner hall and had her sit down. He poured her a cup of tea and said, Sis, don't worry. If you can't remember now, don't think about it. I will take you out of the drifting cloud hall in a couple of days. I will take you back to the northern desert and find someone to unlock the seal on your soul. Leave the drifting cloud hall? Lu Ling's eyes became clearer. She shook her head and said, I cannot go. Before the war is over, I will not go anywhere. You leave the drifting cloud city first. I will have someone send you out. You can come back when the war is over. But Luli hesitated for a bit. Then he shook his head and said with determination, No, sister, I will not leave you even if I have to die. The drifting cloud city is too dangerous. I cannot let you stay here. Sister, don't worry. As long as you go back to the northern desert with me, not even the master of the Palace of Sun will dare to go there. It is absolutely safe there. Stop it, she said in a cold voice. I will not go with you no matter if you are my brother or not. I will not leave Drifting Cloud City until the war is over. There is no room for discussion. Since you don't want to leave, then stay in Drifting Cloud City. Let's not talk about this for now. We'll talk about it after the battle. You shouldn't stay here for too long. You should leave first. Sis, Luli shouted anxiously. She said coldly, Don't waste time. Let's talk after the war is over. Tidy yourself up first. I'll send someone to escort you out. Seeing how determined she was, Luli had no choice but to take out the bronze mirror and the potion Yi Cha prepared for him to change his appearance. Unfortunately, he was not good at disguising himself. He looked much younger now. However, the sky was dark, and if one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't be able to see much difference. Instantly, Lu Ling checked with psychic power. The door of the side chamber was opened, and the old maid walked in. Lu Ling waved her hand and said, He is indeed an old acquaintance of mine. This time, he has given me a very important piece of information. Escort him out. Also, don't tell anyone else about this. Otherwise, I will kill you. Luli looked at Lu Ling coldly. He knew it was pointless to say anything else. Clearly, Lu Ling didn't want to remember the past. She had to wait until after the war. Since her memory was sealed, she didn't have deep feelings for Luli. Even if Luli were to kneel in front of her, she wouldn't say a word. Lu Ling's temper was still the same. She was very opinionated. Once she made up her mind, nothing could change her mind. Luli had no choice but to give her a meaningful look and follow Mammy Lee out. Nanny Lee didn't send Lu Li out of the hall. Instead, she asked a secret guard to escort him. After Lu Li left, Lu Ling walked out of the side chamber and said again, sending 17 to protect him. He is very important. Don't let him leave the city and don't let anything happen to him. Even though Nanny Lee was confused, she didn't dare to ask. She had to order someone else. After Nanny Lee left, Lu Ling stood at the door of the hall by herself. Looking at where Lu Li left, she murmured, Younger brother? I have a younger brother. He is so familiar to me and yet so strange. It seems that my memory is sealed. Well, I cannot be distracted before the war. I cannot think about it anymore. I will think about it after the war. Lu Ling sighed. She turned around and walked into the side chamber, leaving behind a faint fragrance. Luli didn't see Lady Seven when he walked out of the Drifting Cloud Hall. Nobody would make things difficult for him since he was escorted by secret guards. He stood at the gate of the Drifting Cloud Hall in a daze for a moment. Then, he walked back to his residence. Lu Ling insisted on talking about it after the war. Luli had no choice but to go back. He walked for an hour and returned to Meng Ji's yard. On his way back, he thought about many things. It was not that Lu Ling didn't trust him. It seemed that she had accepted him as her younger brother to a great extent. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked Nanny Lee to escort him out. Lu Ling must have played an important role in the war. Lady Seven said that those old guys trusted Lu Ling, which was proof of this. Lu Ling didn't want other things to disturb her state of mind when the war was imminent. Therefore, she chose to leave this matter alone for now. She would find a way to undo the seal after the war was over, or she could go through her memories with him. Luli didn't mind waiting for a few more days after he had waited for 2 years. However, what if the Drifting Cloud Hall lost the war? How could the three forces let go of Lu Ling, the Saintess? This war would definitely attract the attention of the Palace of Sunday. Even though the Palace of Sun pretended to be indifferent, they must have human sovereign realm warriors lurking nearby. They could take control of the situation and intervene at any time. Therefore, Lu Li was worried about Lu Ling's safety. Asking God of Ming to come and take her away? That was not realistic. God of Ming could not show up easily. Otherwise, none of Yi Cha and the others could leave. For a moment, Lu Li was worried. The only fortunate thing was that he was sure that Lu Ling was the Saintess. Finally, he could meet her. My sister has always been good at strategies. She cares so much about this war. Is she sure that she can win? Lu Li thought of one possibility. Lu Ling was smart. For example, in the war at the Dilong tribe, she had laid out her plan several years ago. In the end, Lu Li defeated the enemy easily, even though he was outnumbered. It was the same at the Wuling County. As far as Lu Li was concerned, Lu Ling was better at planning and strategizing than anyone he had ever met. The Drifting Cloud Hall only had 2 human sovereign realm warriors while the 3 forces had 3. But Lu Ling didn't seem to be worried at all. Also, she had asked him to stay at the Drifting Cloud Hall, which meant that she wasn't worried about him. In other words, she wasn't worried that the Drifting Cloud Hall would lose. Never mind. Lu Li thought about it and decided to wait and see. If worse came to worst, he could take Lu Ling away by force. Lu Li would be satisfied even if he and Lu Ling died together. Bang, bang, bang. Lu Li's thoughts were interrupted by some hurried noises. Someone was knocking on the door. Lu Li checked with psychic power and sensed a slim figure. Chapter 578. After all, Lady Seven was a young lady of the immediate Tu family, and she was married to a young master of the Yu family. It was not difficult to find a sergeant at the Drifting Cloud City, especially when Lu Li had been to the Drifting Cloud Hall with him. Lu Li was troubled. He was using Lady Seven to meet Lu Ling. Now that he had met her, he didn't want to have anything to do with her. But Lady Seven had come to him. How could he turn her down? Lu Li had seen Lady Seven's temper. What if she made a scene? Lu Li would be in trouble if he attracted the attention of the big shots of the Drifting Cloud Hall. After thinking for a while, he helplessly got up and walked outside. He opened the door to the courtyard and saw the slender and elegant Miss Seven standing outside. A trace of astonishment appeared on his face as he said, "Miss Seven, why are you here?" Lady Seven was relieved to see that Lu Li was unharmed. She looked at the dilapidated yard, waved to Lu Li, and said, "Come with me." "Where to?" Lu Li didn't want to go, but Lady Seven grabbed his hand and took him to the carriage. She told the coachman to go. When the carriage started moving, she asked Lu Li nervously, "How did it go? Did you go to the palace where the Saintess lives? What happened after that? How did you get out unscathed?" Lu Li made up a story. "I did. Unfortunately, there were 2 warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord realm with the Saintess. I didn't have a chance to make a move. I told her a secret and got away with it." "You are so lucky," Lady Seven said with relief. "Saintess is cold-blooded and heartless. She kills without batting an eyelid. My husband, Yu once tried to pester her, but she broke his leg and destroyed his penis. He can't recover even now." Lu Li was surprised. Yi Cha had found out that Lu Ling once broke the leg of a disciple of the immediate Tu family, but the matter was left unsettled. Lu Li didn't expect that it was Lady Seven's husband, Yi. She even destroyed his penis and rendered him impotent. No wonder Lady Seven was such a slut. Well done. Lu Li applauded to himself. How dare you have designs on Lu Ling? If you were to fall into Lu Li's hands, he would suffer a fate worse than death. Lu Ling was Lu Li's sore spot. Lu Li felt a sense of pleasure at the thought that the one sitting next to him was Yi Yi's wife and that he was making Yu Yi a cuckold. He reached out to grab Miss Seven's hand and took the initiative to take advantage of her. He said with a smile, "It doesn't matter if you fail this time. There will still be chances when the war starts." "Forget it." Miss Seven shook her head and said, "It's better if you don't take the risk. The situation has already become like this. I think it's useless even if you kill the Saintess. Whether the Drifting Cloud Hall would win or lose this time would be up to fate. It doesn't matter even if I lose. At worst, I'll just die." Meng Ji. Lady Seven suddenly took a closer look at Lu Li. She frowned and said, "How come I feel that you are different from before? I think you are younger." Lu Li sensed something was wrong. At Lu Ling's place, he washed his face with water and ruined the disguise Yi Cha gave him. Although she had done some work, her skills were far worse than Yi Cha's. She looked much younger. There were candles in the carriage, so it was normal that Miss Seven could see it. His reaction was fast, and a devilish smile appeared on his face as he said, "I took a trip to the gates of hell tonight, and it can be said that I've been reborn." At this moment, with a beautiful woman by his side and the beautiful scenery, anyone would feel 10 years younger. Lady Seven looked into Lu Li's confident eyes and the devilish smile on her face. Her eyes became blurred. Suddenly, she hugged Lu Li and said softly, "Meng Ji, how about you take me away from the Drifting Cloud City? Let's find a small city that doesn't know us. No, let's leave the Clouds Plains and find a comfortable city to live in. I don't want to stay at the Drifting Cloud City any longer." Lu Li was not surprised that Lady Seven had found out his name. He used psychic power to check, fearing that Lady Seven would ask the coachman to go out of the city. He was relieved to see that they were not going toward the city gate. "Don't be afraid." He patted Lady Seven's shoulder and said, "The Drifting Cloud City cannot be breached. The Palace of Sun must have some powerful warriors lurking nearby. They will intervene at critical moments. If worse comes to worst, I will run away with you when the city is breached. There are warriors of the three forces outside the city. If we run away now, we will be courting death." "Sure." The seventh young mistress thought about it and agreed. The carriage continued to move forward and soon entered a small courtyard. Lu Li checked with psychic power at once. Could this be the yard where Lady Seven and Yu Yi lived? Lu Li realized that it was a courtyard. It must be Lady Seven's private residence. Lu Li felt a headache. It seemed that Lady Seven would not stop until she had sex with him. The carriage stopped in the yard. Lady Seven lifted the curtain and walked out. Lu Li had to follow her. "This is a small courtyard that I live in alone. No one comes here," Lady Seven said with a smile. Her cheeks were blushing and her eyes were glowing. She was aroused. Lu Li pretended that nothing had happened. Inside, he was thinking about how to get out. He didn't want to have sex with Lady Seven. That would be unfair to Bai Qiuxue and Jiang Qiling. But if he turned Lady Seven down, she would be furious and the situation would be out of control. After all, this was the Drifting Cloud City, the territory of the Tu family and the Yu family. "Come on in. What are you waiting for?" Lady Seven walked to the door. Seeing that Lu Li was still standing in front of the carriage, she glared at him angrily. Lu Li had to follow her in, troubled. The yard was elegant, completely different from Meng Ji's. There were no men here, only some maids. Lady Seven took Lu Li's hand and walked directly into the bedroom. As soon as they got in, she pressed her body against Lu Li's and pressed her lips against his. She was like a wildcat in heat, asking for a kiss. Sage Astra's T, what should I do? Lu Li thought quickly. He was in a dilemma. After a while, he found a chance to push Lady Seven away and said, "Lady Seven, don't be in such a hurry. How about we have a drink first?" "You bastard." Lady Seven rolled her eyes at Lu Li. She pulled on her belt and undid some buttons. Her dress slid off her shoulders, revealing her pink belly band. Her snow-white shoulders and round, long thighs were completely exposed in the air. Her eyes were full of charm. She stared at Lu Li and stepped back to the bed. She crooked her finger and said, "Do you think the wine is better than mine? Come on, Ming-ji, give me a wonderful night. Boom! Luli felt like his mind was going to explode. He saw Lady Seven lying on the bed and pulling off the ribbon on her belly band. Her body was exposed. Looking at her seductive gaze that was like a wild cat's, the evil fire in his body was running wild, and he almost couldn't control himself. Bang! Right at that moment, a muffled sound came from outside. Luli and Lady Seven were startled. Luli used psychic power to check. He saw a handsome young man dashing in with a sword in his hand. *T. I am caught in the act. Luli could tell from the murderous look in the handsome young master's eyes that he knew what was going on. It seemed that Lady Seven's husband, Yu-E, was here to catch them in the act. Bang! Chapter 579. This situation made Luli feel very awkward. Anyone would be caught red-handed in the act if they were caught in the act. That being said, Luli never thought about flirting with Lady Seven or having sex with her. He didn't feel so guilty. What had happened must be dealt with. Luli didn't know how to deal with it. It was a young master of the Yu family. If he made a scene, Luli wouldn't be able to leave unscathed. But if he didn't, he wouldn't let it go. Was he going to stand there and wait to be hacked to death? Lady Seven was panicking as well. No woman could stay calm when her husband caught her cheating. But Lady Seven reacted quickly. She covered her exposed body with a quilt, sat up and said, do you have to do this? How many women have you fooled around with? You can do it, but I can't. Don't forget that you flirted with the saintess and had your genitals destroyed by her. If you didn't do that, would I be in this situation? I don't care if things get out of hand, but the Yu family will be disgraced. *CK, I will kill you. Yu-E flew into a rage when Lady Seven reopened his wound. All men cared about their dignity. To have something he could not do in public was the greatest humiliation. Immediately, he raised his long sword and slashed down heavily at young Mistress Seven. Young Mistress Seven looked at him mockingly. She didn't dodge or evade, but calmly said, "Kill me. If you kill me, let's see how you explain this to our two clan." Young Mistress Seven's words caused Yu-Yi's expression to change slightly. In the end, he tilted his sword to the side and sliced the bed in half. His other hand swept out heavily and sent young Mistress Seven flying with a single slap. I will kill this *TCH first, and then I will torture you to death." Yu-E turned around and glared at Lu-Li with killing intent. He swung his sword and aimed at Lu-Li's head. Yu-E was at the peak of the eternal realm, which was nothing to Lu-Li. Lu-Li's expressions grew colder as well. Just now he had thought it through. He didn't mean to have an affair with Lady Seven, so he didn't feel guilty. Yu-E once tried to violate Lu-Ling. That was Lu-Li's sworn enemy. Therefore, Lu-Li didn't have to worry too much. The powerful soul consciousness swarmed over like tidewater, invading Yu-Yi's soul pond and shaking his soul. His hand shot out like a poisonous snake and easily grabbed Yu-Yi's neck, lifting him into the air. Lady Seven was smashed away, but she forgot about the pain and her exposed body. She looked over to Lu-Li with concern. Little did she expect that the tables had turned. She saw Lu-Li turn around and grab Yu-Yi's neck easily. At the same time, he put his sword on Yu-Yi's neck with his other hand. Lu-Li was at the initial stage of the eternal realm, while Yu-E was at the peak. Yu-E was a pampered young master with low abilities, but being taken down so easily still made Miss Seven very surprised. It was easy to take down Yu-E, but it was difficult to deal with the aftermath. Lu-Li turned to Lady Seven and asked, "Will we be in big trouble soon after we kill Yu-E? I mean within 10 days. Once the battle starts, it won't matter." "No." Miss Seven shook her head and said, "Yu-E is a direct descendant of the Yu family. His life jade talisman is in the Yu family, so the Yu family will know immediately once he dies." "Well, it is true that we cannot kill him now." Lu-Li frowned. He thought about it and said, "Then how about we lock him up first? When the battle starts, throw him out of the city and let the three forces kill him." Lady Seven's eyebrows were knitted together. She was uncertain. She didn't know what to do at this point. She could not kill Yu E. If she imprisoned him and the Yu family found out, it would be troublesome. But if she let Yui go, he would make a scene again. She was in a dilemma. Put on your clothes and tell the maids to close the door. Also, tell them not to leak any information. Luli said coldly, leaving no room for doubt. Lady Seven put on her clothes quickly after a pause. She went out and gave some orders to the maids. It happened so fast that the maids outside didn't have time to react. Fortunately, they didn't go out to ask for help. When Lady Seven came back, Luli was sitting on a chair leisurely, and Yui was on the ground. Lady Seven was frightened. She asked in a hurry, "Did you kill him?" "No, I knocked him out." Luli threw Yui a casual glance and said, "Lock him up now. The battle is about to start. Nobody will have time to care about him when the battle starts. If the city is breached, it doesn't matter whether he is alive or not." Lady Seven had been panicking. Seeing how calm Luli was, she felt she had found a pillar of support. She calmed down and thought about it. She nodded and said, "Yes, if the city is breached, we will run. Whether Yui is alive or not is none of our business. The battle is going to start in a couple of days. Let's lock him up for a couple of days." Luli calmed down completely. When the battle started, he could reunite with Lu Ling if things went well. If things went badly, he could take Lu Ling and run away. He didn't care about Yu Yi's life. At once, Luli took out the demon-trapping chains, tied Yu Yi up, and threw him into another room. Luli himself didn't dare to leave. If Yu Yi ran away or was rescued, Luli would be hunted down by the Yu family. Luli thought about it and decided to stay in this yard for a couple of days. For one thing, he could keep an eye on Yu Yi. For another, he could ask Lady Seven to send someone to gather information. For another, this place was clean and comfortable with good food. He didn't have to go back to Meng Ji's yard to suffer. Lady Seven was no longer in the mood to have fun after what Yui did. Instead, she felt uneasy. She stayed in her room and let her mind wander. She didn't bother Luli. At dawn, Lady Seven was asleep. Luli sneaked away and went back to Meng Ji's yard. He left a note with some secret codes in case Third Patriarch couldn't find him. Then, he went back to Lady Seven's yard and sat next to Yu Yi to cultivate. Yu Yi woke up after a while, but he was knocked out again by Lu Li's random attack. Lady Seven heard some noises and came out to have a look. She was relieved to see Lu Li meditating next to Yu Yi. He seemed to be at ease. She was tired after a while, so she went back to her room to catch up on sleep. At noon, Lady Seven was still sleeping when a man came in like a ghost. The maid didn't notice and went directly into Lu Li's room. Lu Li opened his eyes, looked at Third Patriarch, and made a shushing gesture. Then he took out a pen and paper and began to write. He wrote many words and handed them to Third Patriarch. He told Third Patriarch about Lu Ling's identity and asked him to find a way out of the city. He told him to contact God of Meng and Yi Cha and asked them to hide outside the city and be ready to come in and take Lu Ling away at any time. When the war broke out, all the powerful warriors in the city would come out. Master of the Drifting Cloud Hall, who was at the human sovereign realm, would definitely join the fight. As long as there were no human sovereign realm warriors in the city, God of Meng could come in and take Lu Ling away easily. Third Patriarch was thrilled. It was a piece of good news to be able to confirm that the Saintess was Lu Ling. It would make things easier for them. Chapter 580. Lu Li stayed in Lady Seven's yard. Warriors of the Drifting Cloud City were gathering. Tens of millions of warriors from the three forces swarmed toward the three cities. The Drifting Cloud City was shrouded in the clouds of war. Therefore, the disappearance of a playboy didn't attract any attention from the Yu family. Lu Li and Lady Seven stayed at home. Lady Seven sent a maid back to the Tu family to investigate. Over at the Yu family, it was peaceful. Nobody cared. Everyone went to the Drifting Cloud Hall to discuss the war. He was locked up here. He was knocked out by Lu Li after he woke up, but he didn't make a scene. He didn't have the chance either. That being said, Lady Seven had restrained herself. She didn't make a scene anymore. She always looked awful, worried about the gains and losses. According to the information the maid gathered, the armies would arrive in one day. The three armies would be divided into three groups, and they would attack the Drifting Cloud City, the Stormy Cloud City, and the Flaming Cloud City, respectively. Of course, no one knew which army was really fighting or bluffing, and which army had a human sovereign realm cultivator in it. With the armies at the border, regular scouts would be of no use. Luli had been staying with Lady Seven. Even if someone went to Meng Ji's yard, they wouldn't be able to find him. Luli didn't care anymore. He just hid here and waited for any changes. There were more and more armies on the street. Civilians and warriors were forbidden from going out. Those who wandered around in the city without orders would be taken down as spies. Luli was worried. If the three forces focused on the Drifting Cloud City, he would have complete control of the situation. Several human sovereign realm warriors were fighting inside the Drifting Cloud City. God of Ming wouldn't have a chance to sneak into the city. Once he was exposed, he would be killed. Don't focus on the Drifting Cloud City. Luli prayed to himself. As long as the three forces focused on the other two cities, the master of the Drifting Cloud Hall would bring more powerful warriors to help. Lu Ling was a strategist. Naturally, she had to stay in the rear and coordinate the overall situation. Once things went wrong, Luli could send a signal for God of Ming to go to the Drifting Cloud City to rescue Lady Seven. Lady Seven clearly didn't sleep well last night. She was in a low mood. She ate something at dusk and went to bed early. Luli wasn't in the mood to talk nonsense with her. It was better that she didn't bother him. He cultivated for a night. The next day, there came a loud shout from outside the city. The city was in an uproar. Countless soldiers were running in the city. Some of them were shouting the orders of the elders of the Drifting Cloud Hall, telling the people in the city not to cause any trouble, or they would be killed. Miss Seven crawled out of the bed in a panic. She was wearing a loose nightgown, and there were many parts of it that were hollowed out. It was faintly discernible and very sexy. It's starting. She walked in barefoot, and her pretty face was filled with terror. Although he had been very calm about the war and felt that it would be better for him to die, he still felt that it would be better for him. However, when it came to a real battle, she was still instinctively afraid. After all, she was just a woman, and she couldn't remain calm in the face of a major event. Luli said calmly with a straight face, "Don't panic. Send someone out to gather information. Even if the army comes, the powerful warriors of the Drifting Cloud Hall will hold them off. We can find a chance to escape." Lady Seven was impressed by Lu Li's calmness. She nodded and walked out. She called over a maid at the Fate Wheel realm to gather information. Seventh young mistress's maid was a member of the Two family, so she could go out as she pleased. No one would make things difficult for her. Warriors of small families would be treated as spies if they were to wander around. Lady Seven went back and changed into a black dress. She sat next to Lu Li, waiting anxiously. 2 hours later, the maid came back, but she didn't get much information. She only said that there were millions of warriors outside the Drifting Cloud City, and there were many powerful warriors. The Drifting Cloud Hall had sent many warriors to the city walls and activated the formation. But other than that, she didn't know. Luli had noticed that the formation was activated. It was activated at dawn. It was like a semi-transparent blue bowl that was upside down on the city. Luli couldn't tell how strong it was. Luli didn't dare to go out at will. He sat in the yard and waited quietly. Lady Seven was on tenterhooks. She paced up and down in the yard. The maids were pale. If the city was breached and the Drifting Cloud Hall was defeated, maids like her would end up in a miserable state. Being defiled would be the least severe punishment. The atmosphere in the city was tense. Fortunately, most of the civilians had been sent out. There was no chaos in the city. Everything was under the control of the Drifting Cloud Hall. Time moved on. The armies didn't attack. Luli was getting more and more excited. It seemed that the three forces were going to attack the other two cities. But on second thought, the Flaming Cloud City and the Stormy Cloud City were right in front of them. If the three forces attacked the Drifting Cloud Hall without taking down the other two cities, they would be attacked from the rear. Theoretically speaking, the three forces should push forward step by step and attack the other two cities first. Luli had been looking out of the window waiting for the teleportation formation in the city to be activated. Once the three forces attacked the other two cities, the Drifting Cloud City would have to send over powerful warriors as reinforcements. Since the armies outside were besieging him, he had to teleport over through the teleportation formation. Buzzing, at nightfall, a ray of light suddenly rose from the center of the city, followed by several others. Luli checked with psychic power at once. He had no more concerns. Many powerful warriors in the city would check with psychic power. It wouldn't make a difference if he did. Okay. Luli was overjoyed to see so many powerful warriors entering the teleportation formation. Things are going well. The three forces were attacking the Stormy Cloud City or the Flaming Cloud City. They had sent over reinforcements. Luli didn't dare to retract his psychic power for even a moment. He secretly checked the reinforcements to see their realms. As long as the master of the Drifting Cloud Hall of the Human Sovereign Realm left, Luli could ask God of Ming to come and get Luli at any time. There were many psychic powers in the plaza. All the powerful warriors in the city must be checking. Luli's psychic power didn't attract much attention. No human sovereign realm warriors? After a while, Luli frowned. All the reinforcements were at the Noble Lord realm, and he didn't see any human sovereign realm warriors. But there were at least hundreds of Noble Lord realm warriors. More than half of the powerful warriors must have been mobilized as reinforcements. Buzzing, after the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, a surge of energy spread out from the back of the Drifting Cloud Hall and enveloped the entire place. Then several dark shadows flew up and dashed into the teleportation formation directly. Master of the Drifting Cloud Hall. Luli's soul trembled. Finally, the master of the Drifting Cloud Hall was going to fight. As long as he left the Drifting Cloud City, the city would be defenseless for Luli, God of Ming, and Luli could defeat all the warriors in the city. Boom! However, what happened next shocked Luli and everyone else in the city. As soon as the master of the Drifting Cloud Hall left, a Noble Lord Realm warrior in the plaza launched several attacks at the teleportation formation. Several teleportation formations were torn apart and blasted into pieces. Charge! A series of deafening roars rang out as countless figures rose into the air outside the city. They unleashed a series of shocking bolts that struck the barrier of the city, causing the entire barrier to tremble violently. Oh no, something is wrong. Luli's expressions changed. There were 2 warriors outside. They must be at the human sovereign realm. This was clearly a diversion. The Drifting Cloud Hall had fallen into the trap. The real target of the 3 forces was the Drifting Cloud City. The worst-case scenario had come. Bang! Luli stomped on Yu Yi's head. Yu Yi died instantly. Luli dashed out like a ferocious tiger. The Drifting Cloud City was in turmoil. He must go to Lu Ling as soon as possible. He would die with her even if he had to die. P.S. Recently, I have been writing 4 chapters. It is not a big breakthrough. But I'm paying off the debt. I will always remember this. I will pay off the debt as long as the quality is guaranteed. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.